Woo! Hey, everybody. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Productive Productions. Yeah, okay, I'm going to stop. I'm sorry. I have a multimedia production company that encourages thought and humor. I actually wrote this thing for Productive Productions. I have an actual written thing now. It's pretty awesome. I make podcasts, cartoons, and live action videos and distribute them online through social media. How do you check out all this silly and inspiring nonsense? Follow me on social media. I have a Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Snapchat, SoundCloud, Instagram. Probably going to get a Reddit now that my friend told me he's into that sort of thing. It's pretty awesome. Yep. He's looking at me. He's not going to acknowledge me with any kind of response, though. That's okay. We'll get to that later. Anyway, yes, all that, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Snapchat, SoundCloud, Instagram, it's all in the link in the description. Most of them are at Productive TV. But I think the YouTube's different, and I think the Snapchat is, whatever. I'll put the links in the description. Go perusal stuff, man. It's awesome. Also, seriously, if you want to check all this cool stuff out, it really helps me a lot. If you follow, because I'm trying to do a word of mouth guerrilla marketing thing with my podcast and my cartoons. So, all I ask is that if you want to be entertained and you like me, go check my stuff out. Woo! Also, this podcast is not brought to you by, but it is worth mentioning that I'm sitting in this green studio at FM 88.1, the one, KNTU, servicing McKinney, Denton, and Dallas-Fort Worth. They play jazz music. They do news, traffic, weather, sports, anything that you could want out of a radio station. They're gracious enough to. They've given me a lot of training in the radio industry, and then they've also allowed me to use the green studio to produce my independent podcast. And also, any and all opinions, language, and whatever expressed in the podcast do not necessarily reflect those of the station management, or what have you. They're just really nice people, and they've allowed me to use their stuff. So if you get mad at me, don't get mad at them. Go check them out. FM 88.1, the one. My guest today is my good friend. I've known him since high school, and I'm like 26 now. He's a veteran of the U.S. Armed Service, the branch of the Grand Ole Army, if you will. He also used to work at Burris. So there's a fun fact. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I did not. I was hoping I was wrong and just threw some random gas station or random grocery store in there, but no. All right, so it was correct.
They call it the super save now.
Yeah.
For those of you who aren't up on the facts.
Yeah. IGA owned grocery chain, but yeah. Anyway, he's my good friend. He's an entrepreneurial enthusiast, and he likes talking about politics and philosophy and all sorts of other stuff. We have an interesting conversations. We got a really good show lined up for everybody today, and I hope you really like it. So, without further ado, let's get this thing started. Woo! The Outlier podcast. Yay, that was Slayer. Payback. Please don't sue me, Kerry King. Okay, enough. Yeah. How's it going, Nicholas?
I'm doing fantastic. How about yourself?
I, too, am doing fantastical.
Wonderful.
Yes, I just made that up. I'm excited that you're in here. I'm really glad that you were able to show up. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. As soon as I started doing a podcast, I was like, I got to get back in touch with Nick, because this is right up his alley.
It is. I'm really excited about this.
Yeah. But we got so just to let everybody know what we're going on, because it helps to give the structure at the beginning of the podcast. So I'm going to interview Nick real quick and let everybody know who he is and where he comes from, and then we're going to go into this some fun stuff. Hopefully the conversation will just drift in a organic fashion.
They can't see your hands.
It doesn't matter. It helps me talk. Screw them. And oh yeah, I was going to do a live stream for Facebook, but I didn't. It's okay. Whatever. We'll get to it later. And then we're going to go over the news. And then I did an Ask Me Anything where I posted it on Facebook. This is what this is. I don't understand why it's so hard to understand this concept.
Johnny.
I put a thing on Facebook where it's ask me anything, and I will answer it in the podcast, which means you're going to post your questions in this comment thread, and I will read them here. I don't understand. People listen to the podcast, and they're still confused about what they need to do. I don't get it.
If you got a question, you want to hear it heard on the podcast, you got to put it in the comments when the man asks for them. It's not rocket surgery.
Put it in the damn comments. I'm tired
it's
of
not
it.
rocket surgery. Let's get with the program.
Yeah, rocket surgery. So I'm just kidding. I love everybody that participates and listens to this. You're all great. Thank you very much. I feel really bad for insulting my fan base, but
I don't.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. All right. Enough of this nonsense. Where did you grow up, my friend?
I grew up in the great state of Texas.
Wonderful. Where in Texas?
So I lived in Justin for a very short while when I was knee high to a grasshopper.
Right.
Then I lived in Ponder till I was about thigh high to a grasshopper.
Thigh high.
Then I moved to Haslett until I was much bigger than a grasshopper.
Right.
That was actually about the time, if anyone remembers this far back, when there was a massive swarm of grasshoppers that came through and just ate the shit out of everything.
Yes.
That's when I lived in Haslett. And then in the middle of my freshman year, I moved to Sanger. And I guess a year or two later, I met this crazy fella.
Yeah.
And that I lived in Sanger until I joined the Army.
That's awesome. You moved to Sanger, you were in high school?
Yeah, it was after Christmas of my freshman year.
That's crazy. I didn't know that. I didn't know you grew up all over the place. I thought you were a Sanger native.
No.
That's where I met you. No, Sanger's a terrible place. It's full of sadness.
It's got its ups and downs.
It does have its ups and downs. I will give it its ups. But its downs include a plethora of meth users and meth itself.
What town doesn't have their meth users? Come on.
Yeah, but it's like the hallmark of the town. And there's like a cop on every street corner.
At least we don't have billboards about don't use meth like they did in Colorado.
Really?
You never saw those outside of Pueblo?
I didn't drive,
I
Nick.
saw like 6 billboards driving through Pueblo, just right off the interstate. And it was to be like in succession, like you're reading a story. And the first one would be like, meth is bad. And the next one would be like a girl with no teeth.
I do remember that.
Sitting in a bathroom. And
it's
like meth is really, really bad. And then another one, and it's like the girl's funeral. And there's just her dealer there, and that's it. And they're like, I'm not kidding. Meth is horrible.
Like, you will die if you try it once. No, I got a lot of people in my family that have tried or that have used meth for a really long time, and it didn't really work out so well for any of them. So
I wouldn't imagine it works that well for anybody.
No, it's one of them things where it's a terrible situation. Like, it ruins your life. They say like if you die while using meth, there's like a 90% chance that you killed yourself on purpose. Like, it rots your mind out. It is not good.
Oh, like most people that overdose intentionally overdose or something?
Well, I don't know. They go crazy and they shoot themselves.
Oh.
Or something like that.
I think that might be worse.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Suicide's terrible, dude. It runs. Dude, okay, so we'll get into this thing or whatever. The script, it's like the pirate movie. They're guidelines. They're not really rules or whatever. But I was reading this thing today. I can probably pull it up on Burley, but it's the Department of it's the VA, the Veteran Affairs. Is it Department of Veteran Affairs, and that's their
You are correct, sir.
official title? Let me see if I can't find this story.
Let's get other official government titles for 300, please, Alex.
They have so the VA has a suicide hotline, and I was reading this story today, and I couldn't help but it's not funny in any case at all, but just knowing how incompetent the federal government works, like it's not in a hurry to do anything, and it's just like skipping, or not skipping, but it's for lack of a better word, it's a cluster F, and by F I mean it's a real piece of shit. So yeah, they have like a suicide hotline, and I'm not pulling the story up right now because I'm worthless. Oh wait, no, it's in here. Republican congressman.
I don't have any personal experience with a hotline myself.
Here we go.
From what I understand, it's actually done a fair amount of good.
Right. But when you think like government incompetence and suicide, you don't want those things mixed together because it just ends badly for everyone. You know what I'm saying? And the particular article that it reads, the Department of Veteran Affairs insists it is well on its way to fixing problems with the suicide hotline. It is also largely brushing aside its worst criticisms in an internal watchdog report released nearly 2 weeks ago. A March 20 audit by VA Inspector General had found that nearly a third of calls to the Veterans Crisis Line as recently as November were bounced to backup centers. That is terrible. That is like ungodly terrible. Like,
yeah, that's pretty awful.
yeah, I mean, like,
I know when I call the VA just to make a regular appointment, it's like
Yeah.
pulling teeth trying to get through to actually talk to a real person.
yeah,
And
it's like they're infamous
Lord
for
forbid
that.
you actually get a real person. That's probably not the person you need to talk to.
Yeah,
It's much easier to just go down there in person, like drive the 30 minutes to wherever one is and be like, I need an appointment. When's the next one? Oh, 4 months? Okay, yeah, I'm sure I'll still have a cold in 4 months.
yeah, I'm sure I'll have one. Yeah, hopefully I don't bleed out by then. By this, dude, they have like the worst track record. They're the worst horror stories. I'm sure they're not all bad, but like,
I don't know. I definitely talked to more than one surgeon that when they were going through medical school, if you were doing poorly, they would threaten you with, you're going to wind up at the VA.
oh no, that's terrible. I'm thinking it's Bernie Sanders' wife that has been running that for like the past 10 years or something like that.
Is it really?
I'm like 80% sure. I know for a fact Bernie Sanders had something to do with the VA and how poorly it's been run for a while. I know that, but I think it's his wife that's been running it.
Well,
Yeah, socialism and applied to medicine. Go read about the VA, people. It's like terrible. Oh, dude, I was talking to my dad the other day, and he doesn't know. He didn't like. Okay, so my uncle passed away, his brother, and he lived right next door to my grandfather. My grandfather got depressed because that was his next door neighbor and his best friend. It was his son, and Poppy had already had like 2 different kinds of cancer, non-threatening or whatever. But they say depression brings on suicide, or not suicide, but it brings on cancer, especially when you're old. And
I
I'm
can see that.
I'm pretty sure that's what happened, you know. And I mean, what are you gonna do? It happens, you know. And so my dad, for the past 3 years, has been up in Michigan, squaring away the affairs of my uncle and my grandfather, who just passed away here in November 2016. But so he voted. I think he voted for Carson in the primaries, and then that was no longer an option, like almost immediately. So he voted obviously for Trump because who's going to vote for Hillary unless you're insane or evil, one of the two. And then, yeah, that's all he knows about the election. He hasn't paid attention to any of that. Like when I showed him like 2 weeks ago that video of, that Hillary Clinton going, well, it's glad that Donald Trump doesn't control the laws in this country, and then like immediately after he was like, you'd be in jail. Like, that shit was awesome. My dad had not seen that, but you know, so off the whatever. But I was telling him about Bernie Sanders, and he was like, how do people want to vote for that guy? He claims that he's a socialist. So, I'm just talking to him like, Dad, actually the way that he does that is he says he's not real socialism, like he distances himself from the socialisms that have failed in like Venezuela and Portugal, or they speak Portuguese in this country, but it's Brazil, whatever.
Everywhere ever tried socialism.
And he was like, I said the way he distances himself, and he says he's not a socialist, he's a democratic socialist. And there's like a brief pause, and then he's like, so he's a Nazi? Like, what does that mean? Was that not what like Adolf Hitler told himself? Or told everybody that he was? That's how he came into power. Was he was elected the High Chancellor or whatever, and then he was a socialist. He's a freaking Nazi. Why would you even? No, you're fired, Bernie Sanders. You cannot run the country. Go away. I don't even want you close to the VA anymore. By the way, I feel like I should say, if you're a veteran listening and you would like to, you have bad thoughts, you like don't get discouraged just because they put you on a backup center. Like, there's people that care. So suicide's bad, man. It's not good. This conversation just went dark. I'm sorry. Like, I've gone through it in my family before. It's not a good thing.
Yeah, it's definitely not something to take lightly. I've known some people that have done that, and from the outside, you're kind of like, wow, why would that ever be an answer? But for the people going through it, it definitely seems like the way out.
Yeah.
But it's not. Even when you think nobody really cares about you or gives a shit, there's always tons of people out there that really
it's like
think about you. So if that's something you think that you might want to do, you should call a good buddy. Even if you haven't talked to them in years, be like, hey man, need your help.
Hey, call the maybe call the VA. Maybe they'll fix this thing and I don't know. Even if you got to cut somebody out or something, like I know.
I mean, worst case scenario, you can just go to any just like a regular ER at a hospital or something. They'll help you out a little bit.
You could go to a damn grocery store, go talk to your local. Like when I was a gas station clerk, I dealt with people all day. I hated people. I worked at a gas station for 4 years. I hated dealing with them. I hated that job. But like if somebody came in with a problem, they were crying or something like that, it doesn't matter that you're at work at that point, man. You're a human being first and an employee second. Like, you know somebody, go talk to them, you know? But that shit is so bad. It poses it, or it puts you in the mindset that if you take yourself out of the world and you are removing your ability to inflict pain and suffering on other people or whatever, and that's a solution. But really what all you're doing is you're removing your ability to do any good in the world. And through your inaction, you actually affect people as well. Like your inability to interact with people affects them too. You know, it's not a good situation. Like I said, I've been through it before. It's not good. We should get off of this. Suicide's bad.
Okay. not to make a joke of the situation.
No, I mean, yeah, humor is definitely a good way to deal with everything. I use humor like a drug, dude. Like, yeah, I want to get into stand-up.
I would imagine that's even harder than getting into podcasting.
I mean, because it's harder to get it. It's hard to get into podcasting. All you do is like, we could have done this on my phone, dude.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To get in a stand-up, you got to go to open mic nights and bring 10 people that all have to buy 3 drinks and not get booed off the stage. Good luck with that.
I don't care about getting booed off the stage. Actually, my goal is to get booed off, I think, because it's going to happen anyway. So I might as well just embrace that tidal wave as it's coming in. Just like,
yeah, get it out of the way early so you know what doesn't work.
Stand on the beach and with open arms, welcome the doom that's coming from the ocean. Just swallow me whole, you big blue bastard.
If nothing else, at least then you could work on your, attacking hecklers and stuff. He might get famous just for being able to attack hecklers.
Dude, one guy did that. One guy did get it famous for attacking people. He was on Rogan's podcast. Joe Rogan, if you want to listen to a podcast that is like you can get into the mind of a stand-up comedian, Joe Rogan's podcast is perfect because he all his friends are comedians or whatever. His stand-up's pretty good.
Yeah,
dude.
He's a stand-up comedian that I think he's hilarious. And then he has this weird way of sliding in these, I don't know if you want to call them facts or ideas or what, but he'll just slide something in there and you'll be like, oh shit, I just started thinking deep in the middle of stand-up. I was trying to go to sleep or something.
Yeah, dude, that was Bill Hicks was the one that kind of started that. I think like Carlin made you think, but not really until like later on in his career. But like Bill Hicks, right out of the gate, he's a Texas boy. Actually, I think he was born in Arkansas and he moved to Texas when he was 2. I don't know how y'all got that. I mean, I wouldn't allow somebody like that to run for governor of Texas, be honest. Bring all over their stupid Arkansas ideas. Oh, yeah, we're going to bury our cousin. Like, this shit's in your blood, dude.
I don't know. I just remember one of the, like, super early stand-ups that I saw of Joe Rogan. It was pretty funny. It wasn't anything like, oh, my God, he's the funniest stand-up comedian ever. But it was definitely worth your time to watch it and then some. Well, he had this one fairly long bit where he's talking about, dumb people are multiplying, aka banging, a lot more than the really smart people.
Right.
And soon all the smart people will be gone. It'll just be a bunch of really dumb people. And he's like, what about your cell phone? I mean, this was like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Cell phones weren't nearly as advanced as they are now. And he'd be like, what about that? You got any idea how that shit works?
Yeah.
No, you just push the button and you can talk to somebody.
It was like, I think the way you put it was like, look, I'm going to give you a hatchet and a lighter. I'm going to put you in the woods. How long until you can send me an email?
Yeah. And then he relates it back to like, that's probably what happened with the fucking pyramids.
Yeah.
Because all these guys getting paid in beer to build the pyramids and all the smart people that aren't banging enough and they fucking die off. And then there's all the dumb people like, hey, what are we doing with this thing? I don't know, but I just took a dump behind it. I mean, some ridiculous thing.
Dude, Elon Musk believes that. Like, for real, like, no joke, he believes that, like, it's his responsibility to pump out as many kids as he can without destroying himself or destroying what he's doing and whatnot. Because he's like, smart people just don't propagate or procreate as much as they should. That guy is a freaking genius. Like,
yeah, I've only just barely hit the tip of the iceberg with that guy, just looking at some of the different stuff he's done. But
yeah,
the more I learn, the more intrigued I am.
yeah. He has 3 companies. He's working on a 4th one that are like just absolutely like groundbreaking, revolutionary, like industry changing products. Like the SpaceX is like one of the
and that's the crazy part too, is these are all things that he's been wanting to do like since he was in college. It was like, want to revolutionize how people pay for things on the internet, electric cars, and go into space.
Yeah.
And then he just looked at him and was like, which one can I do first? PayPal, here we go.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, yeah, I got enough money now, I can probably build an electric car.
Yeah.
And then that went through the roof, and he's like, okay, let's start going to space.
Yeah.
And then that's like a thing now.
Solar City is another one where he's trying to get it to where it's of no cost or cheaper, of no extra cost or cheaper for people to solarize their homes. I just made that up, solarize, but it should definitely be a thing. Your homes should be solarized.
Yeah, everybody knows what you're saying.
Yeah. Anyway, basically, like he'll lease you the solar panel at whatever cost it would, or whatever cost it is to like whatever you're gonna save paying your electric bill. So if you got an electric bill that's $100 a month, and you get a solar panel that saves you $50 a month, your payment on that solar panel is $50 a month. So it's an even payment, and you're still paying the same that you would an electric company or whatever, but you're going solar. And then when you end up owning that, you can either upgrade your solar panel, or you can own that solar panel or whatever, and then the rest of your life or whatever, however the life is of that panel, is $50 a month. So he's made it cost effective for people to jump on that thing. It's ridiculous. That Hyperloop thing that they're talking about goes like 740 miles an hour. You can hop on the train with your car. You're supposed to be able to drive your car into the box thing and get onto the train and like in like whatever Las Vegas, and then get off in LA in like 3 or 4 hours or some nonsense.
That's pretty intense.
Yeah. What are you doing?
I was trying to do it not through the microphone, but you gotta pause this. I gotta go to the bathroom.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, we'll pause it. Sorry. I'm definitely not editing this out, though.
Yeah, I figured you wouldn't.
No. Goodbye. There it is. Now we're talking. I don't remember what we were talking about. We took like a 10-minute break.
It was not that long.
It wasn't long. We're talking about Elon Musk.
Elon Musk.
He's awesome.
Here's a fun fact about Elon Musk. If you really like him and you really like the space program, you go down to South Texas, wherever they launch the missiles from, and you can buy 20 acres of the worst dirt you've ever seen in your life extremely cheaply. And in all honesty, you'd probably be entirely too close to the rocket to watch it launch, but you can purchase it if you want. I found it on Craigslist.
That's awesome.
That's a real thing.
You get to like actually look at Elon Musk as he's...
I'm sure he won't be there, but you'll be able to see the thing that says he owns the reused rocket or whatever he does.
Yeah, reusable or what rocket. That's I don't know if he's cheap or awesome or both, but
it's probably a little column A, a little column B.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's crazy that he's able to shoot a rocket up into the air and then land it back on the thing and then shoot it back up again. Like, that's never been done before. They've always just been throwaway like cameras.
I think there's something to the effect of he's the first one that's asked a question, maybe. But I could be making an erroneous assumption.
I don't know what erroneous means. I know my general discharge from the National Guard was erroneous, which means apparently I can get back in if I wanted to, but they probably wouldn't take me. There would be a whole process. They'd be like, "Oh, you suck. You spent 10 months and didn't even go to basic training. You're a worthless piece of crap."
That's a good possibility.
Yeah.
I know for sure you'd have to lose a lot of weight.
Yeah. Sitting at, I think 315 last time I went to the doctor. Well, that's not good.
No, that's not good.
No, that's probably going to die tomorrow from a heart attack. You should go right ahead and burp right into the bill.
Don't go jogging anytime soon, that's for sure.
No, jogging's bad for you. Actually, it's not, but it's...
If you're borderline about to have a heart attack, I imagine it's not good for you. Just walk at a brisk pace.
Yeah, brisk pace walking. Let me ask you, we were going to go through this thing or whatever. when did you join the Army? Like, what point in your life did you end up enlisting?
So I finished high school. I was out of high school for maybe a year and a half, maybe a little bit less, somewhere in there. Had a BS job at a feed store, making, I think it was like $8.25 an hour, 60 hours a week, which I'm not really complaining about the 60 hours. Kind of made it to almost okay money back then.
Yeah.
But, obviously wasn't really doing a whole lot. And I tried to go to college for a little while. And then like half my teachers were the same teachers in high school.
Really?
And, well, I say half. I think there was like one, maybe two teachers.
Oh.
One of the teachers was like brand new for algebra. And in high school, I had done calculus. So I did this college algebra class. And I was like, oh, okay. We're just solving for the one thing then. All right. This is not difficult at all. With the exception of it was a first-year teacher with a very thick Nigerian accent. And so we would ask her like the simplest of questions, be like, hey, how did you get that was a negative? We got the right number, but we all have positive and you have negative. And then instead of just explaining why something was negative, she would start the entire problem over again and be like, oh, that answered nothing. Thanks. We will not ask you questions ever again.
And then you failed.
No, I passed algebra.
Oh, really?
I failed a bunch of other classes because I didn't go to them. And, I paid for all of that out of my own pocket. And it was just like, well, this was a big waste of time and $1,000 because it was a junior college and cheap back in the day-ish.
Right.
Not now. You go to a junior college now, and it's like $2,000. It's like, hasn't been that long.
You're kidding me. For a semester? $2,000 for a semester?
Almost $2,000. Yeah, I think it came out to like $1,800 for the last full load I paid for.
That's insane.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like $400 a class. Well, I guess it ain't.
No, the last set of classes I did, it was like I had an extra class. It was like the most you could take before you had to talk to someone and be like, "Are you sure you want to do this many classes?"
Yeah. Yeah, I take 5 for the most part. I'm taking 4 this semester, but I'm doing an internship. But last semester I did 5 and like 2 internships.
Yeah, I think 5 is the max that you can do before they're like, oh, that's too many classes.
Yeah, you can't do 6 classes unless you don't have a job and you've got just a lot of money. Like, because we used to take 7 classes a day in high school.
Yeah, at Singer. But actually the half of a year I did at Northwest, instead of having the like 50-minute class, you would have like an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever.
I hate those.
But you would do half your classes one day and half your classes another day. They called it the AB schedule.
Yeah.
Which was kind of nice, with the exception of there was 3 different lunch periods.
Right.
And the way my class schedules worked out, say Monday I would have breakfast at like 10:15.
Yeah.
And then Tuesday, or not breakfast, but lunch. And then Tuesday I'd have lunch at like 12:45. So that was pretty difficult to get a good schedule going.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, I don't know.
But so anyhow, to answer your question, college wasn't working out for me at the time, and I didn't really have a decent job by any means.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, well, let's give the Army a shot, see what happens.
Just get my girlfriend pregnant and now go join the Army. I don't know. That's what the general consensus is with a lot of veterans that I talk to. They're either trying to get off drugs and clean their life up, or they've got a girlfriend they're trying to provide for, or they want to go to school. Very seldomly do you run into idiots like me that are like, I want to go serve my country. You get the weird...
No,
like,
there's a fair amount of those people, but
yeah,
most of those people actually just come from money.
when they're idiots like me.
Yeah.
But that is what it is. What'd you do in the Army?
So I was a military intelligence analyst. Oh, man, that sounds impressive.
Doesn't it? It does. It also sounds oxymoronish.
Yep, that's what everyone says until I tell them what they need to not die. And then they're like, oh, this guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah, like, who's the oxymoron now, fucker?
No, but a lot of it was just like reading reports and then writing a little blurb about the report and then keeping track of what blew up or who got shot at and trying to figure out who did it and why, and then figure out where they live and then tell someone to go kick the door in.
Okay. I had a friend of mine, he did the same thing for the Air Force. I'm going to have him on the podcast, but he was telling me he could tell you almost exactly where the guy is at any given time of the day just by tracking his daily routines or whatever. He could tell you like 2:15 he's going to be at his house, 5 o'clock he's going to be like in this cave screwing a goat, whatever they do.
Yeah, depending on the person, you can develop a pretty good, they call it a pattern of life.
Ah,
So you, depending on who they are and how much information you can get on them, you can create a really good pattern of life and narrow it down to he's going to be at this house on these days at these times. He'll be at this house at different times, and then
right.
you can go from there and kick his door in.
Did you was that exclusively who you gave your reports to? Was like infantry type dudes, or did you give it to like drone striking type people, or how did that work? Are you even allowed to talk about that? I don't know. If I ask you anything illegal, just tell me to shut up.
Just to make it a little more clear for people that don't know. So like when I was in Iraq, the place we were stationed at, a lot of the units were also stationed out of the same base.
Right.
It was a pretty big base.
Oh, okay.
Or all the units underneath us. So when guys would leave out from that base, they would come into where I was, and I'd give them a little brief of what happened so far today, so they'd be aware of different things, and also simple stuff like the weather, and then other stuff be like, oh, we just got this report in about this. It's probably nothing right now, but just to know about it.
Yeah.
There's some guy over here that supposedly has stuff that the Russians left behind that probably doesn't work.
Yeah. He may or may not be able to cobble something together out of a old 1950s International Farm tractor. And
yeah,
I heard that's what they do is like, well, again, Bill Hicks had that bit about like we keep selling these small third world countries guns, and then we go over there and beat the shit out of them for having guns. And he's like, during the first Bush administration, it was like we got in trouble for selling them like farming equipment. Well, that they then turned into military equipment. Like, son of a bitch, how did they make a tank and a flamethrower out of a freaking whatever lawnmower? Like, how did they do that?
I'm sure everyone by now has seen that video. I'm sure it's several years old now, but there was one guy that I guess his wife left him and took everything or something, and he lost his job. I don't know. Some nonsense. This guy didn't care about himself anymore. Which is probably a terrible B-side of the tape from our earlier conversation.
Right, yeah.
But anyway, so
he could have used the veteran hotline.
He got a big bulldozer, like a big industrial size, like taking down city buildings bulldozer.
Right.
And then got 1/4-inch steel and welded it to everything on there.
I did see that.
Yeah, and so he's just rolling through I don't even remember what city it is, just some big city, like literally driving through buildings when the police block up the road.
Yeah.
And just wrecking mayhem, and no one can do anything to stop him because he's got tracks, so their little spike things are just cute at that point. They try to shoot him, and it doesn't work because it's 1/4-inch steel, and he's just got this tiny little slat to drive out of.
Yeah.
And then he finally drives through a building that was more than he could handle, apparently.
Oh.
And he's like stuck there, so they get ready to swarm up on him, and he just kills himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
You'd be surprised what you can turn into a tank.
Yeah, well, true, but I don't know. I think that like the report, the way the story was that it's obviously not what was going on. Like they were being sold straight up legitimate, like IKEA, whatever military things for the purpose of going over there. I don't know what the thing is, but yeah, I probably can't comment on it. It was a bit and a comedy thing. I should stop talking. Shut up, John.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know. I lost what I was thinking. You have a magnificent beard that you're currently stroking right now.
I know. It's not that glorious, but I do like to call it my foxy red beard. It's just something happened. Like once it got past a certain length, it's like I just can't stop touching it.
Yeah,
I have to like constantly run my fingers through it, kind of like someone might like twiddle their thumbs or something.
Yeah,
and then instead of that, I'm just stroking the old beard.
Yeah. I find that when I shave my beard, I appear to be more like fatter than I actually am. Because the beard hides the double chin pretty good.
Yeah, I actually just had this conversation with a good buddy the other day, and he sent me I guess a Snapchat. I just recently got that. I don't really fully understand it yet, but he sent me a snap, as the youngsters would say.
Yes, snippety snap.
He was like, "Hey, do you have one of these?" And it's just a picture of him with like 8 chins.
Yeah.
And I sent him a picture back, and I was like, "Nah, bro, that's why I got the beard. You can't see it."
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. I started growing facial hair when I started getting fat. My dad claims that it's a maturity thing to just shave it, but I don't think he fully understands how magnificent a beard can be. Plus, his father had he had chops. He had like Wolverine in the comic books has those chops that grow down the side of his face, and then
Yeah,
his goatee shaved.
I think it just goes through phases, much like anything else. Like, a lot of our parents or older uncles or their parents, maybe, it was very much, baby boomers. Everyone they knew had served in the military at some point. And it's a
Right.
very common thing to be very clean dressed and shaven, and you want to look nice all the time. But then all of, those people's parents were the guys from like the Civil War that just had, mutton chops everywhere, like you're talking about, that
Right.
connect into a mustache or something. It's like
some nonsense.
I just think we're slowly going back to that now.
Yeah, I think so too. I think we just keep like flipping and flopping. I think there's only been one president that's had a beard so far, and that's Lincoln.
I think I just read that here the other day. Actually,
He was the only one. That's because it was like a campaign thing. They found some little girl that told him he should grow one, and then he was like, "I'm running with this. I'm tired of them calling me Gorilla Man. This girl thinks I'm cute. I'm not an ugly gorilla. Shut up."
yeah,
That's how that works.
I actually have heard a lot of. Well, I say heard. I vaguely read some things that said, "Oh, Lincoln was actually a really awkward person in general.
Yeah.
And being 12 feet tall didn't help."
Right. Yeah, he was like super gangly. They had to build him like a custom. Well, obviously, they had to build him a custom coffin or whatever. But like,
I think everybody got a custom one back
yeah, yeah, they shot him in the back of the head. I wonder. Yeah, that was not good.
Have you seen Ridiculous 6?
No, I've seen like a quarter of it. I was gonna watch it with my dad, and then we had to stop, and we never turned it back on.
Yeah, well, you're not missing a whole lot, but there's definitely a character in there that was a Secret Serviceman, and that was like his whole shtick, that he did something terrible. And then finally, towards the end of the movie, you realize that he was one of the Secret Servicemen that was supposed to be in the booth with him.
Yeah.
And then he was like, "Oh, I gotta drop a major deuce." And so he takes off, and then there's John Wilkes Booth. They cross paths in the hallway, and by chance, John Wilkes Booth is like, "Hey, you know where the president's at?" And he's, "Oh my God, John Wilkes Booth! Oh yeah, the president and the first lady are a huge fan of this guy. He's a famous actor. Yeah, they're right over there down to the left." And he's like, "Oh, they're gonna have a great time." And he takes off, and it's like, jump cut to him sitting on the can, and then he just hears a gunshot in the background. Oh my God, what's happened?
That's awesome. I didn't know John Wilkes Booth was an actor. I don't know why I thought he was a doctor, but that was the guy that there was a famous doctor that treated him for a broken leg, and he didn't know who he was. Mud. His name was Mud. That's where the phrase comes from. You don't do that, or your name will be Mud. Because he healed the guy that murdered Lincoln. I think they might have put him in jail for healing that guy or for treating that guy.
I don't know anything about that at all.
Oh, well, when John Wilkes Booth escaped,
I know
he
there's
broke his
a
leg.
Matthew McConaughey movie called Mud.
Yeah.
And Matthew McConaughey's character's name is Mud, and he's a hobo who lives in a boat that's stuck in the top of a tree.
That's awesome.
It's actually not a terrible movie.
That sounds like I would watch
decent.
it. Yeah, I'd watch it. Oh, I do live action stuff. Nick has been in my live action film. My one live action. I was going to add that to the
I forgot to give you guys my
thing.
other credentials. And once I posed for live art sketchings in my first stint in college. And as of late, I've become a famous actor.
Yeah.
And what was it called again? I already forgot.
Good Dog, Bad Taters.
That's it. No, I don't know. Bad Dog, Good Taters, wasn't it?
Bad Dog, Good Taters.
Come on.
I'm sorry, I ruined everything.
You already forgot the whole name of your own film.
Well, we got to re-edit it because we ruined it. Did I show you the final product yet?
I have not seen it. I just saw everyone's reactions of why am I watching this right now.
It was terrible. Like, we picked the windiest day ever to film that.
I thought you cut all the sound out.
We were going to, but then when you throw the knife down, there's a link in the description for the video. Just watch it and then come back to this. Listen, you throw the knife down after you're peeling the potatoes and you hear the knife hit the ground and it was like clink, clink. And I was like, we got to keep that in there. That's awesome. So that just went to, let's not delete anything. let's just like put music over top of the windy sound, and then it sounded pretty good. It didn't sound anywhere near as bad because the music was so loud, but when we actually took our earbuds out, and they told us this specifically, like, do not use earbuds when you're editing this thing. You have to use over the ear like headphones because it does not sound the same. And sure enough, when we played it, it was like just god awful.
You
garbage.
guys are such noobs.
Noobs and nerds. But yeah, Zayna helped me out pretty good with that. I had no idea how to run a Premiere, and she showed me how to freaking edit it or whatever. So good job, Zayna. I'm sure you're listening to this podcast this way through after all the horrible things we've said.
No, I'm sure she's tuned out long ago.
I doubt she'd listen. I don't know about anybody who listens to this thing. Like, really?
I'm sure she's had her fill of you.
Yeah. I'm pretty stupid. And
all right, next on the list, what do we got?
oh, I got what was the Army like? Blah, blah, blah. What were you
it was
when
hot.
Well, yeah. What rank were you when you got out?
I was a sergeant when I got out.
E5?
E5, the lowest sergeant there is.
Sometimes the lowest is the best. But I don't know. I got nothing.
Okay.
I had E7 tell me, I remember my E5 days. I got away with everything. I don't remember. He was just fawning.
I don't know. I had a pretty, I guess, unique and lucky position. When I first became a sergeant, all the other NCOs that were above had PCS'd and gone. So I wound up running my little S2 shop. We sort of call it the S2 platoon, but it's not really enough for a platoon. It's more like a squad or a section.
Right. How many people were in it? 4 or 5?
No, at that time we had probably at least 13.
Okay.
We had 2 officers, and then myself. We had another guy that actually became E5 before I did, but he had an extra long leave getting back, so they just put me in charge. And he was butthurt for all of about 5 minutes, and then he was like, "I'm not responsible for nothing. You have at it, buddy." And then we had like 8. Oh no, I take that back. There was one guy that was a specialist that came back with us, and then we had like 8 brand new privates that had, just barely took the stickers off their boots,
right.
Brand new,
right? Fuzzy patches.
So that was pretty interesting. And then when I PCS'd, I went to another unit where essentially the same thing happened, but there was another guy that had just became an NCO, and they had 1 or 2 specialists that were kind of seasoned, and then a crap ton of brand new privates that, they just barely got done cruising down their hometowns, and all of a sudden they're in the grand old Fort Hood.
Right.
And then slowly we got some more NCOs in, but they didn't, they're the kind of people that couldn't find their asshole with a flashlight and a map. So
right.
I wound up still kind of being in charge of things, but just not officially, alongside the other guy who was a new E5. We really kind of ran that place.
That kind of happened to me at this job that I'm at right now. The manager doesn't really work, or like she does like the absolute bare minimum, and like for the longest time I was like running the crew in her absence, and then she would just be absent even when she was there, and I would just like delegate shit and be like, "Yo, you go up to 3rd and you go down to 1st," and they just, so there's like a 4-story building and we're all janitors. There's like 4 of us, and it's a huge building, so you have to like coordinate things, and they were having me like
she knew you were on top of it. That's what happened.
No,
she didn't go in there and ask for a raise.
Yeah, exactly. I should have
just don't complain about it for just a smidge, not a whole lot, just a smidge. Make sure you got everything on lockdown and people actually respect and listen to you.
Yeah.
Then go into her office and be like, "Hey, I need a raise, or I'm not handling this anymore."
I'm actually about to quit. So
if they don't give you a raise, be like, "All right, I'm not handling this." When people come to you at the beginning of the shift and they're like, "Hey, where do we go today?" Be like, "Don't fucking ask me."
Yeah, actually, that's kind of what I've done. I skipped the whole raise thing. They gave me a raise, and then I stopped caring.
Well, you did that kind of backwards.
Well, they gave me a raise, and then I was like, all right, I don't care, because you only get raises every like year when they do the employee evaluations.
So
or whatnot.
when everyone gets a raise.
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay.
Yeah, that's the way they handle it. It's a state job, so.
So there's nothing you can do other than getting it like a legit promotion.
Yeah, so I just like straight up stopped caring or whatever recently, and then there's actually a girl that's working there now. She's an upstart. She started as a temp. She was like a felon or had a felony rather. I don't call her a felon. She's a person. She's a good lady, and she started at that company as a temp, and they do a background check for people that work there full time, but the temps are all through a temp agency, so it doesn't matter. And she obviously would not pass a background check. She's got a felony, so we had her tell them about the felony, and then apply anyway. And then me and like a handful of other people like went up to upper management and was like, "You need to give this girl a waiver, like whatever. She doesn't have burglary of a building, so she's not gonna steal anything on her way out. Just get her hired on." And then now she's working there full time. They give you like a 70% discount on college for working there because it's a school, so she can put her kid through school and shit now. It's pretty awesome. But
That's really awesome. That's how it should work all the time.
yeah,
But no, instead we're like, oh, you committed a crime and you paid your debts, but now you still can't do anything. How about you go commit some more crime?
so we can make money off of you. You are this, I don't know, man. The whole private prison system thing is not good. I feel like that's a way to finance slave labor, essentially. Like you're encouraging.
Yeah, I feel you there. That's like, I'm usually more all for privatize everything. But that's obviously something.
Well, that's like
that hasn't worked out privatized.
Yeah, we've
seen the past, and obviously this isn't working.
Yeah,
maybe we need to change it up.
Well, you need to keep government separate from everything. Private, you need to keep it separate from religion. You need to keep it its own thing. And in all honesty, prison is a government thing. It is
absolutely.
It should not be a private situation. Like, look at the education system. That used to be a private thing altogether, and now look at it. It's swamped with idiots that can't read, and people, they're slowly becoming, they can't do math with this Common Core crap. That's gotta suck. Being a parent, and your kid's about to go to school, ain't he? He's like a year or two off from joining the ranks kindergarten, isn't he?
Yeah, he's got a late birth date, so I think we have to hold him for an extra year before he can go to kindergarten or whatever.
I've heard, I actually read this book, Outliers, and my dad told me this, that kids with like late birth dates or whatever, they end up doing better in their lives because they start advanced from everybody. They're like the older kid in the group instead of like the young noob or whatever. But like if he's 5 and everybody else is 4, then he's already got a whole other year of experience on everybody else. So he's, I'm trying to figure out, oh, this red and blue. Fucking the other kids are like, oh, hi, Dad, crayons. Like he's already
he's
smart.
Definitely got that going for him. This kid is freaking smart. Like I know everyone says, oh, my kid's so smart and beautiful and wonderful, but no, this kid is intelligent.
Yeah.
Like so we always drive back and forth between like our house and the grandparents' house and stuff, and my parents are split up, and he knows where each of them live in the town.
Really?
And then, so for a while, it'd be like, when we're driving, be like, okay, are we turning left or we turning right? Just like on a whim, I started teaching him his left and right.
Right.
Well, through that, he learned like directions on the way to Nanny's house, because that's his grandma, so he calls her his nanny.
That's crazy.
Be like, oh, so how do we go to Nanny's house? And be like, we'll go down this road, and then we'll get to a stop sign and be like, turn left. And then we turn left, and we go around a little bit more and be like, oh, turn right there. That's the Nanny's house.
That's awesome.
I was like, holy cow.
My Uncle Les was telling me that he learned how to read a map before he could read because he used to get in the truck with my grandfather. My grandfather was a truck driver, and he used to take him places. And yeah, he could like he'd be like, are we in Arkansas already? He's like, yeah. How did you know that? He's like, because the letters on the sign match the ones on the map, and you told me this was Arkansas. That's what that shape is. Like,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, because from teaching them left and right, I've started teaching them as cardinal directions.
Northwest, south, and whatnot?
Yeah, okay. So just the big 4, not the in-between directions, whatever that's called, for people who know better than I do.
Alrighty.
But but the downside to that is because I haven't been working with him on his left and right anymore, I've just been doing cardinal directions, he's slowly forgetting his left and right. But it doesn't matter which way we're facing, I'll be like, which way is east or west? He's got that down pat because, the way the sun travels.
That's insane, dude.
And, I explained to him, hey, in the morning time, the sun's over here, that's east. In the evening time, the sun's over here, that's west. So he's got that down.
Right.
Every now and then he gets confused on south for some reason. Never on north, just south. Like he knows east, west, and north, but sometimes south throws him for a loop. I don't know if he forgets what the word is or what.
I don't know, dude. I would wonder, like, I would want to hook his brain up to like a machine that just like maps what happens when he's thinking and shit, and be like, oh, medulla oblongata is not communicating with the cerebral cortex or whatever. I don't know.
I don't
I'm
know.
just saying words.
He's
but
pretty smart like that, and then
it's awesome.
he just picks up on the most random things. Like I told him this. I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to anyway.
Okay.
So like he drinks his own like little juice boxes and stuff,
Right.
and he sees the stuff that Daddy drinks, and so I just explained to him, hey, that's Daddy juice. You can't have that. That's for daddies.
Right.
So all right, fine, whatever. But now it's become like a thing. That's Daddy juice over there.
Yeah.
The other day we're driving through town and he sees a big truck delivering Daddy juice, and
Yeah.
it's got it all advertised on the side. And he's like, "Oh man, they got a lot of Daddy juice over there." I'm like, "They sure do.
Yeah.
They sure do, son. We're gonna go over here and get some breakfast now."
My dad was telling me he worked with this guy. Now, mind you, this guy was incredibly racist, just terrible. And his wife would not, as soon as he got married, she's like, okay, you got to mature. You've got to get past that word, the N word. So to wean himself off of it, he started using the word monster. Is this where you write another memo? And
No.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, just useless
uh,
notifications that I had to get rid of,
Right.
because they annoy me when I see them. I should probably just do that
It's
so I
okay.
don't see them.
You want to put it over there?
Nah, we're good.
Okay,
We're good.
we done interrupting the podcast now? It's an interesting story about monsters. I'm just sorry.
Well, I mean, I'm just keep spreading your proliferate of racism.
No,
Let's
all
hear
right.
it.
So this clown, he would refer to instead of using the N word, he'd say monsters or whatever around, because then they had kids and whatnot, and they wouldn't. They didn't want to teach the kids racism. They wanted to raise them right instead of like what this guy grew up like, And he said
break the cycle.
it came back to bite him one day because he brought his 2-year-old daughter into a grocery store one day, and black people walked by, and she's like, "Look, Daddy, monsters, monsters!" Just like top of her lungs, screaming and pointing at him and shit. Like, yeah, serves you right, fool.
I do have a very similar story to that, only not quite as horrible.
Right.
So my family's been a Ford family forever, as long as I can remember.
Right.
Even my grandpa, he was all about Ford until Dodge revamped and have essentially what it looks like now, but I guess the early 2000s when they had their big revamp, and he's like, "Oh, I like that. That's kind of nice."
Yeah.
And so I've been teaching my son that the only acceptable brand of vehicle is Fords, and that there's one particular brand that's awful, and that is of course Chevy.
Right.
Dodges are okay; they've overcome their bad reputations, and
Yeah.
when truck month comes around, they're usually the cheaper one.
Right.
But so it slowly turned into, ew, Chevys are gross, and only nasty girls drive Chevys. There's definitely been a few times we'll be like in a parking lot or something, walking across, someone will pull up in a Chevy, and it'll be like, ew, Chevy, and it's just so loud where the person blatantly hears it, and it's just hysterical.
That's awesome. The little kids cussing him out for that. My cousin was telling me one time. Okay, so my cousin is more or less adopted. My uncle was his stepfather, right? But Jeff's dad ran out on him, and the biological dad ran out on him. So his stepfather was his dad his whole life, right?
Okay.
So he's my uncle had just married his wife, and my cousin was like 2 years old at the time. So about a year later or whatever, he was like 3, and they're driving to the Walmart, and the rule at the house was if they lived on a big farm, if you got to pee, just don't pee on anything that's like cars or whatever. Go pee on a tree or something that we didn't make, And we're driving. He says, all of a sudden he hears, "Gotta pee, Daddy, gotta pee." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Can you hold it until we get to Walmart?" Yeah. Okay. He gets to Walmart, and Jeff hops out of the car and whips it out and starts pissing right there in the Walmart parking lot. And he's like, I wanted you to wait until we got into the store, but that's not what I meant. I mean, you can't get mad at him because he followed the rule of the law.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes you definitely have to watch how you word things, because you're like, technically you're not wrong,
Yeah.
but that's not what we're going for.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. I can't imagine what it's like doing that. I used like my dad. I had these terrible stories. My dad took my cousin in, my second cousin, which is he's older than me. He's my dad's first cousin. And he was 18 at the time. My dad was like 24 or something like that. And he would my cousin would watch me. My second cousin would watch me, and while my dad would go to work. I think, I don't know. I was like 2 years old. I don't remember half of it, but I do remember cousin would just. I'm not saying his name because I haven't cleared using his name like with people, because he's actually fairly famous up in where he lives.
It doesn't matter.
In his circle or whatnot, but he's like teaching me that like Big Bird is a communist. He had me saying that. He would like get me to say shit like Big Bird's a communist because he like said, I don't know, I was watching Sesame Street one day, Big Bird was talking about deforestation or something like that and how it's bad, and he was like, what? This Big Bird's trying to destroy industry. He's against capitalism, blah, blah, blah. Like, he got me to say that after we had fixed a Ford F-100 that we referred to as Henry for my benefit, he got me to say that Henry ran like a raped ape. And, yeah, so, yeah, he just kept getting me to say that. My dad was completely oblivious to it. You know, hey, John, how does Henry run? Rape tape, you know? And then Doug would just like said his name. He would just like watch me like get handed off to my mother, and I would go home like a ticking time bomb, because like a week later, when it was my dad's time to pick me up for the weekend, she'd be like, who taught him to say rape tape or whatever?
Yeah, that's definitely a problem I have with my little one right now. Like, sometimes he swears.
Oh, no.
And, but sometimes it's hard to get mad at him because he will use it correctly.
Yeah.
Like, he's not even like just using a swear word just to like throw a random swear word out there. Like, he'll stub his toe and he'll use a swear word and be like, you did it right, but you're not supposed to say that, even though I said it 6 times already today in the last 20 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't hardly swear around him, I imagine, right? Or how does that work?
I'm sure it happens more than it probably should. But, you know.
Yeah. I had a cousin tell me one time he was struck. Did you ever get to the, like when your dad's like, you're not supposed to cuss around your dad and he doesn't allow it or whatever? And this happened to me. I dropped a hammer down. We were working on a second story and we house or whatever we're on, and I dropped the hammer into the floorboards and I had to go grab it. The second I dropped it, I was like, shit. And then I looked up and he seen me cuss, so I tried correcting myself and I said, damn it. And I was like, fuck. And it just kept going. I couldn't shut up. He didn't say anything to me.
Oh, that's great.
That happened. Yeah.
No, I remember the first time I actually started swearing a lot in front of my dad.
Yeah.
You know, I had just gotten back from Iraq and I was on leave. And at the time I don't know, I guess I was like probably 19 or 20, something like that.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it was 21 actually for the purposes of the story.
Okay.
Oh no, this is Texas. We're good.
Yeah.
Because I was with my father, so it's not illegal.
Yeah.
So we were sitting around the table drinking because he didn't drink my whole life. He wasn't really that into it or whatever. And then he got kidney stones, and the doctor was like, I just kill a 6-pack every now and then and pee a lot, and you'll be good to go.
Yeah.
And from that, he got to where he just drank a lot of beer for a while. And part of that was when I came back. And, so of course we had our big shindig at the house kind of thing. But for whatever reason, he didn't actually like the taste of beer. So in order to be able to drink the beer that his doctor told him to drink, he would have to play like random drinking games.
I remember I was there for one of those.
Yes, you were.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a good time.
There was.
So we're sitting there playing these drinking games. Here I am, fresh back from war. just putting them away like I shouldn't be. And smoking cigarettes like a freight train and all this stuff. He didn't even know I smoked. I just grabbed his cigarettes and started smoking them. And then, once you get a couple brewskis in you, the swear words start flowing like they would from a soldier fresh back from war.
Yeah.
And he just looked at me like, what? Take another drink, you so-and-so. And that was the end of it. He never said anything else.
What are you going to do? I mean, yeah. So, a veteran can swear like it's like a superpower that they're given upon enlistment. It's like,
Yeah, we do try to pride ourselves on our ability to swear about things.
Yeah. Yeah. They said George Washington could cuss the paint off walls.
Well, that's a great fact.
Yeah.
I never heard that before. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
It was like a private thing. He behind closed doors, he would just like light people up, and they would be like, "Whoa," because all the stories you hear about George Washington are like, "Yo, you never told a lie. You cut down a cherry tree. Blah blah blah. You're just a nice guy." Nope. He was a savage that like sailed across a frozen river to murder the English on Christmas morning. Like he was amazing. The dude, he thought he was.
Stick that in your teapot, Yankee.
Yeah. Well, actually, we were the Yankees.
Whatever.
At that point.
I just.
Yeah. But what are you planning on doing now with your life, Nick? What do you think?
That would be the great question of the times.
Right.
So I got a few things that I'm trying to work on and kind of get going. One of which is I'd like to start my own podcast. I think I spoke with you privately about that a bit.
Yeah.
As it stands right now, I don't even know what it's going to be about. I'm probably just going to buy a microphone and start rambling and take it from there and
be perfect.
See what happens. Initially, I'll probably just use the podcast as like a little self-enforcer for myself for other ideas I have that I'll inevitably talk about on the podcast, and then people be like, "Hey, did you do this?" No, I didn't. Stop being a waste of my time.
Yeah.
And then I'll do the things that I said I will do.
Or somebody will steal your ideas.
Yeah, that's fine too.
Yeah.
You know, I after looking up different kinds of entrepreneurial things and this, that, and the other, it's like your idea itself isn't really that special. There's so many people out there, especially nowadays. It's like you're not the only one with that idea.
Yeah.
You might think you are. And I've actually had a ton of ideas while I was deployed, only to come home and realize that they're things already when I thought they were brand new. One of which I thought was like the coolest thing ever. I just didn't know how to make it happen. And then I got back from my deployment and it was a real thing. Actually, both deployments has happened. But so my first one, I thought it'd be really cool to have like a Google image search. And I really thought about it just with Google because that's what everybody used.
Right.
And then I came home and that's like a real thing. You can click on an image and then Google search things based off of that image.
Yeah.
That's a real thing now, especially these days. But I had the idea in like 2008, 2009. I was like, this will be awesome, but I don't know anything about computers. So I can't make this happen.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, maybe if I would have tried a little harder, I could have found some people and made something happen. But
Right.
it basically already existed at that point. And I was like, well, there goes that idea.
Yeah, it's all right. And then what happened with the second one?
The second one was not quite as inventive, I would say, or
Innovative?
innovative or groundbreaking. It was it was for like a USB drive, right? You plug it into your computer and store data and such.
Right.
Well, I had found out that people buy a lot of different crazy styled USB drives that look like different cartoon characters or just have random like plastic
Looks like a
spikes or
spaceship
whatever.
and whatever, yeah.
There's all these crazy different ideas of whatever you could think of. They had a USB version for it.
Right.
And at the time, they were starting to make, you know, vast memory capabilities out of smaller and smaller packages. This was right towards the beginning of that. And I was like, man, we should make one of these and then put like a little tiny bullet vibrator at the end of it. So that, you know, you plug it into your computer, it stores data like it should.
Right.
And the computer charges it a bit.
Yeah.
And then, you know, if you need to, you just, for the ladies, obviously, well, I guess whoever buys it, I don't really care.
Yeah.
Could just take it right out of the computer and
Put it right.
take care of other business and then plug it right back up and charge it back up. I thought this was like the greatest idea ever. And actually for this one, I started trying to like learn about like how to do like wiring diagrams and figure out what would make this work the best. Because I figured you could just buy like the same parts they use for like cell phones.
Right.
You know, to make your phone vibrate when you get a text message or whatever, just use those same parts. And I guess the voltage probably for cell phones was closely related to how computers work or some nonsense. And I was trying to figure out how to wire it up. And you can buy like simple little motherboards that do very few things. And I was like legit putting this thing together. Well, not in real life, but just like drawing up plans and this, that, and the other, and trying to figure out theoretically how to make it work. Then I came home and those freaking things already existed already. And I was like, oh my God.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the we was talking about the fleshlight things or whatever earlier. Like people, if you can think of it, it can be manifest. Like a plastic vagina or whatever. Like
Yeah, and that's the other point I was trying to make before I went off on a tangent. It was like, it's like your idea, as special as of a snowflake as you might think that it is,
yeah.
you don't do anything with it, it's really not going to go anywhere. So telling people about it really doesn't matter, because chances are, if you're not really doing much with it, it doesn't matter.
Which is why you need a podcast.
Yeah,
We'll
like
wrap back into that because that's all it is. You're talking
if you're
about
going
crap.
out and trying to learn different business things, you're going to have better luck going and talking to people and being honest about what you're doing and trying to learn for the sake of business instead of being worried about, oh my God, my idea is so special.
Yeah.
I need to learn about distribution, but I can't tell you my idea.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Because
Yeah.
whoever you're talking to, they already got their own idea they're working on. That's why they know about what they're doing, because they got their own thing.
I had a buddy of mine that was yeah, exactly. Unless you're looking at somebody that's like a thief, like, and that's rare. Like the comedy world, you got what's her name, the fat one that nobody likes, and
Honestly, I don't even think she's that fat, but I watched that leather special or whatever for all about 10 seconds and we turned it off. And she definitely looked like a cow in that.
Yeah.
I kind of like them looking a little bigger.
oh,
But I don't know who said it was okay to go out there looking like that, but she should fire somebody.
well, that girl she's stolen a few jokes, and same thing with that Carlos Mencia guy. He was like famous for like just like ripping people's jokes off and repackaging them.
Oh,
And
I did not know that about him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's why Joe Rogan got like off the charts famous for his private life, so to say. Or his podcast or whatever is real popular, and that's kind of in his private life. In his public life, he's got the stand up and all the acting, whatnot, Fear Factor, UFC crap. But I'm a huge Joe Rogan fan. I talk about him on the podcast all the time.
I love when he talks about Fear Factor. Even him, he's like, no one expected it to last more than like a season.
Yeah.
And then it's like 10, 12 years later, and he's like, you eat that big butthole. You got this.
They said they said they hired him because he was so cynical about the idea, and he was the guy that was the producer, the executive producers or whatever wanted him to go away immediately because like when he went into the audition, he was like, you want to do what? You want to make people eat animal penis on TV? That's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. You people are insane. You're taking this seriously? No, you're out of your mind. And they were like, okay, get rid of this guy. He just pooed all over our idea. And the other guy was like, no, he's right. And you need somebody that knows that he's right, because if this show takes itself too seriously, it's going to die. So you got to bring somebody else in there that makes fun of it. So it looks like the show is aware of its own ridiculousness.
Maybe that's why it lasted so long. I'll be honest. I watched that show all the time back in the day.
Dude, I did too.
I used to want to be on that show.
Yeah, because you make money just sitting there. I didn't want to have anything to do with snakes or spiders.
Yeah, but snakes and spiders don't like wig me out too much, or I'm not like, oh my God, there's a snake or a spider. Someone please help me. Like, I'll squash them when the time comes.
Yeah, but when they put your head...
at the same time, you got your head in a glass case like you're on real life Saw before Saw was a thing.
Yeah.
And they just fill it full of rainforest cockroaches that are the size of a child's shoe and hiss at you, and they're like, don't crap in my eyes, please.
This was a show that ran for like 8 years. Like it was, I think it went through like 6 seasons or whatever, got canceled, came back for a season, and then it was done. Like,
oh, I definitely thought it had a longer run than that, but either way, that's still a pretty good amount of time.
Yeah. It's like 24 episodes of pop.
Yeah.
24 and 8 is, I'm not going to do the math right now.
I don't really care. One of the things I always thought was awesome is they didn't do it that often, but they would have like the couples one or something.
Yes.
And then I just remember one of them, they would have to, one person would be driving and they would be blindfolded. Yeah. And then their partner would be in the seat next to them, and then they'd be going down the highway like 55.
No.
And they have to drive up onto the back of a semi.
No.
That was the best. And, like, part of it was awesome just because you got to watch someone drive a car up onto a semi who hasn't been behind a car hauler and just wanted to know if that was even possible.
Yeah.
And then on top of it, they throw in like the couples factor of it, if you will.
Yeah, of
Where
them
it's
bickering with each
where
other.
It's like, because the husband has to drive, obviously, because
Right.
the husband always has to drive. And then there's a wife over there giving terrible directions because she never drives.
Yeah,
Or it's the opposite, and the husband's like, "Oh my God, I'm so great at giving directions. I know everything."
yeah.
And then the wife's over there like, "I don't know what to do." He's like, "Turn left," and she's like, "Turn more left." And they go off into a ditch.
That's insane, dude.
That's definitely like one of my favorite things.
Did you see the one where like he had to break up a fight between people or something like that? Like it was like I remember he mentioned it on the
I'm
podcast.
sure I've probably seen it. I don't remember
He
it.
like, mentioned it on a podcast, and then I went and looked it up, and it was like if I had Bryce here with me, he would pull the video up. I need to bring him in more often, but it was like I don't remember. Some girl pushed some guy, and it was like on a couples thing show, but they weren't married. Like she got mad at the husband of the other couple and pushed him because he wasn't good enough or something like that. And then Rogan was like, "Yo, you can't just hit people. You can't just like that's not how it works. You don't like what is this 5th grade? No." And then the girl that pushed the other guy, her husband stepped up because he was like, "Oh, you're yelling at my wife or whatever." And then he like he thought he was gonna get like whatever with Joe Rogan, and you wouldn't know this because he hides himself with baggy clothes, but that dude's like a freaking 10th level jiu-jitsu black belt or some nonsense.
I don't care what his certifications are. You look at the guy, you can tell he's ripped.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah.
I don't care what kind of clothes he has on when you can see muscles popping out of his shirt collar.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not the guy you want to pick a fight with.
Well, exactly. Or either that or like, I don't know, at least make sure it's worth it, you know?
Yeah, especially when it's your girl running her mouth.
Yeah.
Maybe let her get beat up a couple times. She won't run her mouth so much.
I don't know how that works, but
I don't really either.
yeah, I know. But you'd have to be dumb to marry a girl like that.
I would suppose.
Yeah.
Next bullet.
All right. What are you planning on doing now? Oh, I've already gone into that.
Oh no, I didn't. We didn't really cover all that. We started talking about Fear Factor.
Yeah.
So part of it was the podcast, right? We said podcast.
Right.
That's to keep me accountable. One part is one buddy of mine will tell me I've been slacking off on it, but one part is I want to buy things and then resell them on Amazon. They call it retail arbitrage.
Right.
And basically, you just go around and find different things that are on sale in other stores. And because people are generally lazy, they just go to Amazon. They're like, "Oh, that's the first thing that popped up. I'll buy that."
So you're doing the work for them, basically, at a
Yeah,
convenience charge.
So I go to like, for lack of a better example, I go to Walmart and they got a big sale on flip flops or something.
Yeah.
So I go in there and I buy up 30 pair of flip flops, and then I go and mail all those off to Amazon. Amazon holds them for me, and then Joe Schmo comes up and he's like, "I need a pair of flip flops, but I don't really care about searching around for nothing." So he tops in flip flops in a shoe size or something, and here's my flip flop, pops up hopefully fairly quickly.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Oh, I'll buy that one." And then Amazon packages it up and ships it out and charges me a little bit, and I keep the difference between what I bought it for and so on and so forth, which I have not done much to it. I've been meaning to light a fire under myself to get going with that a little bit.
What do you got to do that?
Well, on one hand, I could just start going.
Yeah.
Well, on the other hand, I want to buy a few things that are probably not that necessary. I want to get a nice label maker. I say nice. I want to get a label maker that just makes it easier to print some labels, and then like a barcode scanner. And then I need to get a better account set up with like UPS, and then I'll be set.
Okay.
Realistically,
you're thinking about brand management at this point.
Well, see, that's another thing. So as far as like the retail arbitrage, it doesn't matter what your brand is. You're just sending crap out.
Right.
And then people see that Amazon has it in their warehouse and it qualifies for Amazon Prime, and they get their free 2-day shipping, and they don't really care about anything else.
Okay.
So the other side of that is that you can do through Amazon, you can do through some other things, is to where you make your own brand of things. Like say, just for example's sake, because anyone knows me, obviously I couldn't be this, but say I was some big yoga guru or something.
Yeah.
I could go out to like Alibaba or some other random place and buy like 5,000 yoga mats and put, Nick's Yoga Guru logo on these, and whoever I buy them from will do that for me, and then ship them into America, and then I'll ship them off to Amazon, and then people hear my podcast about how yoga is grand and wonderful, but it really sucks to do it on gravel. And they'll be like, I need one of this guy's yoga mats.
Yeah.
And then so they'll go to Amazon and be like, Nick's Yoga Guru yoga mats, and I'll pop up and they'll start buying it like crazy.
Yeah. I want to do that too. Only
Yeah,
like
so that's another aspect that I kind of want to get into, but I guess I need to build a brand of some sort. I guess I could do yoga, but I don't think people like to watch big boned fellas do yoga.
I don't know, man. Maybe you start buying microphones or whatever, start reselling those, something.
Maybe. I mean, you can resell almost anything. It's
this is a Shure.
It's kind of like
microphone.
eBay, but it's a lot more strict.
Yeah.
So like I said with microphones, I go out and I buy a microphone at a pawn shop. It's brand new, never been used.
Yeah.
But obviously the package is opened. So I can't sell it on Amazon as brand new because it's been opened and possibly used. So I have to go in and say that it's used in good condition or something.
Yeah.
But I have to label it so that when it shows up at that person's house, they are pleasantly surprised by the condition.
Okay.
If I say it's new and great condition and it shows up and it's got, packing tape and the foam pad smells like someone else's breath, they'll be like, this isn't freaking new. This is ridiculous. And they're going to give me a bunch of bad ratings and I'm going to get kicked off of Amazon. I'll never be able to get another account.
No, you can't do that. But,
yeah. So that's two things I kind of want to do. I've been looking at trying to buy a franchise of some sort as a possibility. Some franchises are extremely expensive, like McDonald's.
Yeah.
I forget the exact numbers off the
Domino's
top of my head,
will let you buy.
Try to Google it for yourselves. Don't be sheeple.
Right.
But you got basically have like $1 million or something crazy to start a McDonald's.
Right.
Which if I had the money, I would freaking do it.
Yeah, you making a ton of money.
Because everyone makes fun of McDonald's, but they all go there and get them McNuggets.
Yeah, those nasty.
Especially with that new Szechuan sauce.
Dude, I was just about to say that. So the Rick and Morty episode came out. They dropped it on April Fool's. They have built that. They took the Cartman plan. You need a refill?
Yeah, let's have another little short intermission.
Let's have a short intermission. We'll get back to the Szechuan sauce. I'm sorry, everyone. It's highly irregular. And recording, Nick. We're back, though, through the magic of I'm just hitting the record button again. You didn't even know that we left. I don't remember what we were talking about. Szechuan sauce.
Szechuan sauce.
So the Rick and Morty episode came out.
It was like their April Fool's joke was, oh, we're going to put out a real episode that everyone's been waiting on for years.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic. And at the very end of it, they're like, oh, I didn't do this for any, logical human reason. I did this because I want Szechuan sauce.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is like a McDonald's promotional sauce for Mulan.
Which
when
came
it
out
first
like
came
97.
out, the original time, decades ago. I'm just doing this for Szechuan sauce.
Yeah. So I read an article where this guy actually had some of that McDonald's Szechuan sauce. He just kept it for no discernible reason other than he knew something was going to happen that would make that stuff go up. And sure enough, it happened. He sold a packet of that stuff for like $90,000 on eBay.
Mother of God.
Yeah.
If only I knew that would happen back when I was 10 years old, I would have saved some Szechuan sauce.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that McDonald's stuff happens all the time. That stuff, once it goes out of season, it becomes it becomes memorabilia. I just laughed because I just thought of this.
Beanie Babies? You thought of?
Yeah, you remember the Beanie Babies?
Dude,
no,
I went to the McKinney Trade Days, which is like this huge flea market they have in McKinney, Texas.
Yeah.
So we're walking around there looking at everybody's junk / what they think is not junk. And I can't tell you the number of little booths they had there that still had Beanie Babies for sale.
That's insane, dude.
Like some of them were still in the plastic. Like that made them more valuable because they were in this ratty old plastic packaging
Yeah.
for the last 7 decades since the last Beanie Baby craze.
That's insane, dude. I remember when those things hit like crazy and then they came back like and then there was like a bunch of different substitute products that came out for it.
Yeah, like the knockoff ones.
Yeah.
This, that, and the other.
Those things were awesome. They had like the dragons and whatnot. I had a ton of those things.
I forget who it was. Someone made like a big joke about that. I want to say it was like Futurama or something. Like someone came into a bunch of money and they were like, oh, I want to protect my investment. And they went and bought a bunch of Beanie Babies, like their entire life savings in a Beanie Baby.
I don't remember that. That sounds awesome. Yeah.
Bad reference. I'm sorry for everyone listening.
It's okay. It's okay. I don't understand what we're doing anyway. But
Oh, so other things that I would hope to venture into in the future.
right.
We talked about the podcast, possible franchise things, maybe.
Yeah.
If I can find the right thing that fits with what I'm trying to do.
How come you don't look into Domino's?
I've
Did you
looked
work there
into
for
it.
a while?
Yeah, I worked there for longer than I care to admit.
Yeah, but if you were there for a year, they'll allow you to buy a Domino's
No.
franchise for like 1/10 of what it's.
No, it's
right.
if you are a manager for a year. I never
Oh.
achieved that rank
I see.
for different political reasons. / I could make more money as a driver than an actual manager.
Right.
I
Some girl I went into the Domino's and sang her. I told her that I was going to make a film with you, and she was like, "Call him Kevin for me, or Kyle, or some nonsense."
yes, this is Tristan.
Yeah, it's a boy's name.
Yeah. For everyone with sensitive ears, go ahead and cover them up now. But I've told people that you could just call her Tranny for short. That's stuck for a little bit, but it didn't carry as much as I had hoped. 'Cause, a lot of names have like a shorter version. Like Richard, you call him Dick or something. So I started telling people, yeah, that's Tristan. You can call her Tranny for short. She was not so appreciative, but that's what she gets for calling me Kevin.
Dude, she like just sucker punched you in the back of the head, and rather than equal, you just like dropped a nuke on her. It's like, yeah, Japan.
A bit of a show of force.
Yeah.
But on the bright side, she was one of the few people that I could just randomly start screaming obscenities at, and she would laugh as opposed to go and cry in the corner, which apparently I made a few people do while I worked there.
I've experienced this.
Yeah, one lady was she was older. I mean, I was certainly too old to be working in this establishment.
Right.
And she was old enough to be my mother, possibly my grandmother.
Right.
I don't know her real age, but her wrinkles were quite confusing. And she made an official complaint to the manager about me. And I guess it didn't make it very far, other than just the manager was going to come talk to me.
Yeah.
And at the time, my wife worked there as well. And all of us are good friends with the manager. Like, I yell obscenities at the manager sometimes, and she yells them right back. It's
Right.
jolly old fun times when there are no customers to get mad at us.
Right.
And then so my wife tells me that this woman has tried to make an official complaint, and I need to tone it down and this, that, and the other. So I simply told my wife to tell the manager that I wanted to file an official complaint on this old woman's nipples because she did not know how to purchase a proper bra in all of her years of experience of wearing a bra.
Yeah.
And she would just have constant nipple poking out like it's 10 degrees outside and she's in a bathing suit or something. No, it's just constantly. I don't know if she did it for the tips or what, but it was just out there all the time. And that was the last I ever heard about watching my mouth. It was just, don't talk to her anymore. And I did my best.
Oh man, that happened. One time I was at a gas station, and this guy became my friend. But this was when I first met him. His name was Rob. He was like, "Oh, I'm 30 years old and I'm working here, and you're 18, so that means I'm in control of you." And blah blah, because he was my manager or whatever. But I translated that to, "You're 30 years old and you're still working at a gas station. What are you doing telling me what to do? Leave me alone." He did not care for that at all. I never said that to him.
They generally don't
No,
care for that.
but
That's the only achievement this guy has in his life. The only little bit of power.
yeah.
And you were like, this means nothing.
I loved it. I loved that guy, dude. I got along with him so well. But yeah, this is right at the beginning of our relationship or friendship or whatever, and these people come in, and we're talking smack to each other in front of these people, and I said something about, "Oh, you could get a hot dog or you get a chicken sandwich. I prefer the chicken sandwich myself, as the hot dog's old and I wouldn't trust it." And he's like, "Don't tell the customer that, John." Blah 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 blah. And he's joking. He says, "They're really good." I'm like, "They are good." And then something else along the line says, he says, "John, you're fired." I said, "Don't, Rob, you can't fire me. You're not far. That's way above your head. You don't make enough money to be able to fire me." And then he gets serious, and like he's like, "No, but you know what? I could send you home." and write you up. And you know what happens after I write you up and the manager reviews it? And I look at him and I promptly say, they find your body in a ditch. And he went quiet. Then the customers went quiet and everybody started staring at me. And I finished the transaction and Rob became my friend after that. It was pretty awesome.
Well, that's a pleasant ending.
Yeah.
That could have went much worse.
Yeah. What were you thinking it would have been?
I figured that maybe that would have been your last day on the job.
Oh, no.
If
I
it
did
weren't
get
for
fired from that job.
If it weren't for the precedent of this is when we became friends before you started the story.
Oh, yeah. I did get fired from that job. It was the best thing that ever happened to me in my
Good.
professional life. Getting
Good.
fired from that piece of crap job.
Good. Sometimes that is, the best thing that can happen to you.
What are you doing sticking around in a place that you hate, making no money and getting no, just walk out.
Yeah,
Screw them.
that's probably most people's problem.
My only
today is,
regret was that I
why
didn't
do you
steal
keep
from
doing
them
something
more.
so well, aside from the stealing part,
Like I should have
why
walked
do you
out of the
keep doing
door.
something so that you hate so terribly
Yeah,
and then consume so much of your life, and then you get home and you don't want to do anything at all,
yeah,
or you just hate everything, and then your family hates you because of it.
yeah. That's a attitude. It's like Bruce Lee, whatever. Bruce Lee said, you can't have a bad attitude towards something because that attitude will bleed over into other areas of your life, and then you'll just start sucking at everything. So you gotta.
That's a fact.
Yeah, it's a fact that he said it, and it's a fact that it's true.
Yeah, I believe that 100%.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of introspection in my later 20s, if you will,
Right.
and tried to learn a lot about just different things in general, how to make myself better, which has led me down the path of entrepreneurship a little bit. I just got to quit being scared and lazy and actually jump off and do something.
You're also going to school, and you're in college now, right?
Yeah, I'm in junior college again.
Don't matter.
The very same one that that I didn't appreciate the first time around.
Second time's a charm.
Yeah, well, there's a really awesome instructor this go around, so he's helped me stick it out, and we made a few dirty jokes along the way, and it's been good times.
Yeah.
Where was I? Podcast, franchise. Oh, so one thing I've done far more research than I should have without pulling the trigger. I want to try to get into real estate a little bit, and I know your dad does it some, and I probably need to buckle down and talk to him a little bit and have him kick me in the behind a bit and just go buy something.
I'll take you over there. He'd probably love to talk to you.
Yeah, he probably would. But so that's one thing I want to do is get a couple rental properties going. That's a long, slow, arduous process, but once you get the ball rolling, it could be quite advantageous.
They offer a minor in rental property management here at the business school.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Actually, their business program is pretty top notch. Their business program, their film program, and their music program. All three. Those are like the big three programs or whatever. I don't know how to talk about like physics and whatnot, if that's a good program or not.
I've heard
it's the same
the
all around.
mathematics, science stuff is pretty good because we had a buddy that we went to school with, and he did really well. And I don't talk to him enough to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to use your name in vain on the
no way he's going
airspace.
to listen to this unless you're
Probably
going to send it to him.
because I know back in the day he didn't trust Facebook, so I'm pretty sure he doesn't trust it now.
Yeah, and he
It's
doesn't
like, I'm
trust
not
me
gonna-
at all. He
I'm
hates
not
my
going to give
ass.
the government my information willingly, and it's like, you have no idea how the government works.
Yeah.
And then Snowden happened, and he was like, oh god.
Yeah, like God
I don't know.
Almighty, dude.
I
Like,
haven't talked to him since then, but anyhow,
the CIA got caught the other day doing the exact same thing.
not a surprise.
Yeah, it's not just the NSA. The CIA's doing it too. The FBI's probably doing it. I mean, let's go for three. Woo!
Technically, the CIA is not supposed to do anything in the States.
Yeah, at all. Period.
That's extremely how my job was.
Yeah.
The things that I did, I could only do outside the country.
Right, because if you write it down, what's the rule? You write it on paper, and it's like towards somebody in the States, and then it becomes a felony or whatever, or something like that.
I don't know about writing things on paper. I just knew if we found anything that had anything to do with a U.S. citizen, it was immediately hands off, and we pass it off to the CIA.
Oh, I see. I wonder how they justified that Anwar al-Awlaki assassination.
I don't know enough about that to talk intelligently about it.
You know who I'm talking about at all?
Nah.
Oh, okay.
So since I got out of the Army, I've taken a bit of a willful ignorance about the news, and I don't keep up with it near as much as I should.
Right, I've done the same thing, even though I work at a news station.
Yeah, but so anyhow, franchises, maybe find the right thing.
Yeah.
A couple of rental properties, hopefully, if I can, do that correctly.
Yeah.
And then I was looking at maybe like some food truck action. I think that'd be kind of fun, just like on the weekend, just throw out some tacos and stuff and see what happens.
Yeah.
Another thing is
making movies.
I don't know about the whole movie making thing. I've dabbled.
Yeah.
What the amateur would call amateur stuff.
Right.
And I'm a movie star. And but anyway, I really like the voice acting aspect of it. I think that'd be pretty cool, even though I think my voice is kind of goofy and whatever. But
nah, it don't matter.
Hollywood, they take all kinds. They take all kinds. They're gonna have a role for a goofy sounding guy, and boom, I got the ticket.
Look at Adam Sandler. Every movie that he's been in has been the dumbest thing that's ever been constructed.
Especially since he got picked up by Netflix. It was like we stopped caring what you made 10 years ago. Just crank some stuff out so we have some actual movies and not just TV shows on our Netflix.
I've never seen his Netflix stuff. I've seen like bits and chunks of I've seen the first half of the Ridiculous Six or some nonsense where he's like killing people with his feet. He's like holding knives with his toes. Yeah, some stupid nonsense. Like
it's worth watching once.
Retarded.
I guess, but since Zoolander was the other one, Zohan or whatever. Since Zohan, he's kind of gone downhill.
Oh, I thought it was like anger management is when he started going downhill.
Yeah, probably. I don't know.
Yeah,
I just remember the Zohan was particularly terrible.
Man, he got replaced with like Will Ferrell and.
But he did have one recently that's pretty good. That's on Netflix. It's him and David Spade.
Where they fake their deaths or whatever.
Yeah, that's actually quite hysterical.
Is it? I've not seen it yet.
That's worth the 2 hours of your time to watch it.
I'll turn it on.
But anyway, so the things that I'm trying to do is the things I said already, not to recap them for the 8th time. And then
voice acting, podcasting.
Yep. And then I've looked into digital marketing a bit. I find that pretty interesting. It seems like it'd be the kind of thing I can do sitting on my couch in my underwear.
They got a digital marketing class.
Make a little bit of money.
Here,
would you stop, plugging the school for a minute?
I've never said the name of the school once.
Yeah, you did at the beginning of this thing.
No, I did
you were
not.
like,
I said the university.
Yeah. Okay. Well, everyone knows what you're talking about when you said 88.1.
No, because this is not a. This is
so moving on.
No one knows.
Now that I don't know what I was talking about again,
I'll move you right on.
How about you let this flow naturally and stop interrupting me? I find the digital marketing to be fascinating. Google AdWords and Facebook ads and air quotes Bing ads, because who uses Bing?
Right.
So anyhow, so I think that'd be kind of cool to learn how to do. I'm trying to figure out how to do it the non-traditional route by just Googling things and learning it and this, that, and the other.
Right.
And then I think it would be interesting to go hand in hand with the podcast is to make like a YouTube channel, talk about random nonsense, maybe just
vlogging,
filming myself talking for the podcast. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then use that to kind of help build a brand to tag back into the, Nick's yoga master, yoga mats or whatever I decide to.
Right. Exactly.
To stick out there with my name on it.
We'll do, I'll tell you what, we'll pause this when we do the AMA and we'll just film that and see how that goes. We'll do it on the cell phone, see if it works out for anything.
Yeah, we can give that a shot, see what happens.
We will. This will be the first video podcast.
Let's see, the things and the things and the other things, all the things.
We've got to the end of the
I think I've covered most of the things I want to. Oh, you know what? Just for personal-wise, one thing I'm trying to get into that, like most of my things, I've been rather lazy about.
Trend. You're building a trend.
Yeah, it's quite the trend of laziness.
It's all right, man. You're trying to get your degree. You got a family.
Like a natural state at times.
Yeah.
But I want to try to get into woodworking a little bit. I think it's
awesome.
Pretty awesome. Like just building things in general is really awesome. Gives you like a little sense of accomplishment. So many people's jobs nowadays don't have that at all.
Well, that what's his name? And Sanger. At the high school in Sanger. What was the guy's class that did he did all the metal shop and the wood shop and all that?
Oh, Kenny Rulin?
Nah, Hale, Mr. Hale.
Yeah.
Was that the same guy? No,
different. Two different guys, but they both taught the ag stuff.
But that was like the coveted class. Everybody wanted to get into that. every man that I knew anyway that wanted to get into that class in high school. It was
Yeah,
just,
old Kenny Rulin did the metalworking class. I took
Okay.
that class. That was pretty cool.
I dropped out of high school before I got a chance to go take that guy.
Yeah, but luckily he liked me, and I got a B in that class. And
That's
he straight up told me that one day. Like, we had one of our big test, if you will,
Yeah.
was to get a couple of pieces of 1/4-inch steel that we cut up into like index card sized pieces of metal,
That's crazy.
and then cut them up and divvied them up to everybody. And then you had to take a arc welder, which if you don't know what it is, just Google it.
Yeah.
And then weld all these different angles together, like a perpendicular angle, and then two pieces that are flat butted up to each other, and then one at like a 45-degree angle, and then to show that you could do all these different things. And so I did it. It was stuck to, was metal stuck together in the ways that I was assigned to do.
Right.
And then I cleaned it up a little bit and took it over to it and showed him, and he looked at it for a minute, and he's like, "Well, I'll give you an 85 because I like you." And
That's
I was
awesome.
like, "Well, let me take another crack at it." And I didn't do very good on the second crack, and I went over to him. I was like, "I'll take that 85." And he's like, "Okay." "How much metal did you waste?" And I was like, "Not too much."
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, luckily I was one of the people that helped measure and cut out all the pieces for everyone to use. So
Right.
maybe I got a little bonus credit on that. And
Oh, you probably earned that.
I was
85.
in the old FFA and
FFA.
the Future Farmers of America.
Oh.
It's actually pretty awesome.
Yeah,
Like,
I have no idea.
no
What
one-
is that?
So it's like a school club, kind of like I don't know, any other generic club you might have, but this is all geared towards like agricultural stuff. So like I showed goats as one of my things, like took animals to a show, like you buy a really young goat. Well, what I did was goats and chickens.
You go get your blue ribbon.
I got one blue ribbon, but it wasn't for anything alive.
Oh.
It was for beef jerky.
Oh. Well,
It
that's
was my senior year. I took a food science class.
that's dark.
No, this beef jerky was delicious.
Different class altogether.
And I've yet to been able to recreate it.
Right.
But so my senior year, I took a food science class, and in that class is like a home ec class basically, but they had to reword it for political sakes. One of the best classes I've taken. But so I was going to enter into the county fair with a food item, but I wasn't a part of their club, whatever the home ec club is, because they have their own separate club thing.
Right.
So I just did it through FFA because they were also at the deal, and I was a part of that. And then the way they did it is, you had to make X amount of stuff and then enter it in. So like people making cookies and cakes and pies and all these things. And then I made beef jerky, and I slid into the nutritional snack category. And so I'm going up against people making like trail mix and granola bars and all kinds of nonsense. And here I come with my peppered beef jerky and some teriyaki jerky, and that I legitimately made from scratch. Like I went and bought a big slab of beef and cut it up and came up with my own seasoning off the top of my head and cooked it for a day and a half, and then threw it in a bag, and I was like, "Here you go." And I got first place.
That's
Blue
awesome.
ribbon, baby.
Boom, dude. I
But
mean,
the awesome thing about the county fair is it's one of those things that's for like the kids, right?
yeah.
So whoever wins, they auction off their stuff. And then you get that money, and you get to use it for, the next year around, or if you're a senior, you get to use it for college or whatever.
Right.
And so I spent maybe $20 on all the stuff that I used to make this jerky.
Right.
And most of that was just the meat. And then it came out to about a pound of beef jerky after it was cooked.
Yeah.
And that sold for $120.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
was
no wonder you
awesome.
want to open a food truck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, my wife's really into the idea of opening a food truck, and I think it would be kind of fun.
Well, Denton's perfect for something like that. They got a
Yeah,
big
because
area
they
over
got
there
that big food truck area deal, which I think would be pretty cool. So.
yeah over there by the bearded monk or whatever. There's a bearded monk and a bearded lady right there.
I forget where it's at, but there's like an area where they all park. That's supposed to be awesome.
Yeah, they're all awesome. I love food trucks.
There's a couple of taco trucks over there, so I might have to come up with a different idea.
I don't remember why I thought of. Oh yeah, I thought of this story my buddy was telling me. You remember did you ever have to go through your promotion board when you got promoted? Of course you did, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So my buddy went through one of those when he was going from specialist to sergeant.
Yep. You got to do one then.
Yeah. And he was like, he knew the I guess like the sergeant major, the master sergeant or whatever was the guy that was running the board, and he was the only one there that day. And he knew that guy pretty well, and that guy knew him pretty well. So like he came in one day and he thought, oh, this guy's in a bad mood because he was all scowling or whatever his first sergeant was. And he walks in there and he's at like parade dress and he's like, how you doing today, specialist? You having a good day? I'm like, yes, first sergeant. He's like, get out of here. You pass. I'm like,
dang, I thought my board was easy.
Yeah.
Because I went to the board while I was deployed.
Right.
And the guy who took me to the board was actually beneath me originally.
Oh, wow.
Like I was in the Army longer, and then he showed up to the unit, and I taught him everything he knew.
And then got promoted faster than you?
Yeah, because I didn't like rap music, but that's a whole nother story for another time.
What?
The good old boy system is real in the Army.
Oh, my God, dude. I had no idea.
Doesn't just work for white folk. So anyway, so this guy takes me to the board when my garbage NCOs are not in the deployment anymore.
Right.
And so I go in there, and because of my position, I knew all the people running the board. It was the sergeant major, who I worked with daily, and then another sergeant major, who I also worked with daily.
Right.
And then a sergeant first class that I didn't work with him a lot, but we knew each other and we're on a good relationship.
Right.
But he just didn't know what I did. And then another sergeant first class who was in charge of the medics, and I was responsible almost single-handedly for getting no less than 10 of his subordinates' secret clearances.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So we go in there, and then the command sergeant major, he asked me a couple of questions that are, just legit questions that kind of have to be asked to everyone, so to speak.
Right.
And I give them legit answers that are apparently not quite the same phrasing they necessarily wanted, but not necessarily wrong.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the NCOs just essentially just go on to ask me, what the hell did I actually do? And what have I done to teach new people who have come in to do their job correctly?
Right.
And then I answered all those questions. And then, like I said, we were deployed. So one of them asked me, like, well, in our little drill for whenever the base gets attacked, what do you do? Because everyone had a different position on the base to go to. If we started to get attacked and potentially overran, everyone had a different job of different areas to protect and kill people if they came over the wall.
Right.
Except I didn't. My job was to go into the TOC and get UAVs to come in and blow people up.
Yeah, exactly.
And they were like, oh, yeah, that's a good position for you.
Yeah.
I will keep walking around and shooting people with towels on their head.
Yeah.
And you get the big guys in here to kill everything.
Yes, please just call somebody to send there, like, I don't know, chariots of death. That'd be amazing.
Oh, man. I won't tell the whole story, but so we did have an attack on us, but it was from a nearby building.
Why would you not tell the whole story?
Because it's kind of boring.
Oh, okay.
I didn't have any cool parts in it, really. I just kind of sat there and watched it happen.
Here we go.
But so anyway, shit's hitting the fan, and we get a A-10 Warthog in, which is a big fighter. Yeah, plane, big fighter plane.
It's actually a gun that they've built a plane around.
Essentially, yes. Please Google it.
Yeah.
Hours of fascination to be had.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure people have heard of a show of force before. We actually mentioned it earlier. But there was too many people in the streets, so they couldn't just light up the whole street with these big cannons, basically, that they have. There's the big Gatling guns. They're like, someone at home is screaming, like, why is this guy so stupid? But it's probably like a 30 millimeter Gatling gun or something like that. Big, massive bullets. There's too many people, so they can't do that. So they do a show of force. And for that plane, what a show of force means is they come in about 200 feet, which for an airplane is about to land low.
It's like really low.
And they just fly over top really fast. Oh my God, on that day, I knew it was coming, and I still ducked onto the ground into the fetal position, like, oh God, we're all about to die. Thank God those people are on our side.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely a great thing in our favor.
Yeah, that's just crazy, dude. Those things. What happens if like somebody, I don't know, passes out because they were going too fast and like I don't know. My dad taught me from a young age that you don't trust machines. Like, period. They don't care about you. They don't care if you're alive or dead or whatever. They'll rip your arm right off.
Yeah, they generally don't.
Yeah.
I don't know what happens when someone passes out. I don't.
The
know
plane
anything.
crashes.
I don't know anything about planes.
Somebody
so.
makes a mistake or something. They turn a 0 into a 1, and all of a sudden you're the one with napalm all over your face instead of the.
I don't know. We had a JTAX attached to us, so every time we got a plane with a real person in it, they handled it. And then I handled a bunch of UAVs, which planes with no people in them.
Did you actually like pilot one of those things, or did you like?
No, so I didn't pilot them. So there's another Intel MOS job position that they go to school for how to fly the Shadow, which is a small to medium sized UAV that the Army controls.
Right.
And then the bigger ones, the Air Force controls.
The Predators or whatever.
Yeah, Predator, Reaper. They got a couple names for them because they've revamped them and they're quite impressive now.
I would imagine.
The original Predator prototype was built with like a Dyson vacuum.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah. And so they're a lot bigger now and with a lot more capability and much bigger payloads.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, so I would handle like the UAVs, and then instead of actually being the guy flying it, they would just fly over into our area and then be like, what the heck are we supposed to look at? And I'd be like, you need to look at this and tell me if this guy craps in this area.
Right.
And as soon as he craps there, we're going to kick his door in.
Yeah. With bullets.
Yeah, pretty much.
I had a buddy of mine tell me he was a combat medic. If I'd ever, I don't know, after I graduate, I got a handful of options. If I would ever consider going back in, I would want to be a combat medic. Like, it just seems fun.
That'd be a good one.
Everybody likes you,
yeah.
for the most part. And
that's not. Most medics that you run into are liked.
Yeah.
But it's not by accident.
Mm.
Like, you gotta earn that position. Like if you're a medic and you go to a unit and people call you by your name, nobody likes you.
Yeah.
Like, if people start calling you Doc, then you're a shoe-in. You're good to go.
Yeah.
But if people call you by your rank and or your name, you've been messing up and you need to reevaluate your life.
Exactly. That, and the fact that your job is like essential to making sure that everyone else is alive around you. Like, that's the whole point of you. Not, I mean, they teach you you're like a soldier first and then you're your MOS second, I assume. But like with a medic, it's like, no, you're still a soldier first. Because your MOS is like stitching people up that are bleeding out.
Most of the medics that get attached, especially to like infantry units and stuff, they're just infantrymen with bigger backpacks.
Yeah. This guy was telling me he was a combat medic, and he was in a helicopter, and he had his headphones in, listening to, like, he had this weird sense of music, but I don't know. He was listening to something, and somebody tapped him on the shoulder or whatever, and he thought that was a signal to go, which it wasn't. But he just jumped out of the helicopter anyway. He landed on top of a building, looked up, and all of a sudden his people were not with him. So he had M16 with him, and he cleared the entire building from the top 4th floor, went all the way down, killed everybody inside. And by the time he got down to the 1st floor or whatever, they opened the door up, and he was like, "Oh, clear!" Like, hands up,
man.
Whatever. They were he was sitting there waiting for him.
Oh, that guy's a lot cooler than I am. I didn't get to do anything near that cool.
No, that's not necessarily a bad thing. A lot of those dudes that end up doing stuff like that, they either come back with a really like good sense of whatever on their shoulders, or they're really messed up because being around explosions and people dying or whatever. Like,
yeah, everybody's different. It affects everybody differently.
General Mattis, the current Secretary of Defense, he was a Marine Corps general before he got put into that position or whatever, but he said he met a lot of guys that came back that were better fathers and better husbands and shit because they had gone through that or whatever. But everybody, I think it hits everybody different. I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, PTSD is a pretty strange beast. I had a conversation with a staff sergeant one day. Some people had varied opinions about him, but we were doing a field exercise, which is just training in the States, but you're out in the field like you're deployed kind of thing, and
Right.
everything sucks. But for this particular deal we were a small little outpost and had a fair amount of downtime in between listening to the radio. So he gave me this book called The Things We Carried. And I thought that was a really great book. It's basically about the Vietnam War, and as opposed to being like big 30,000-foot view, it's a very, very drilled in view of one small platoon and those guys involved in it. And part of it is literally the things that they carried on their pack, because if it was important enough to carry, then it was important, because obviously they walked everywhere in thick jungle.
Ah.
And then it talked about their lives once they got home and this, that, and the other. And, it talked about different types of PTSD, and anybody that even knows of the Vietnam War knows that, PTSD was an issue before we really knew what that was.
Yeah.
And it sparked an interesting conversation about how, like, with World War I and World War II, you didn't deploy as an entire unit. You kind of deployed as individuals to an extent, with the exception of, a couple of big movements.
Right.
And then you pretty much stayed over there until the war was over. And with both those wars, the war actually ended. There was a hard end. Yes, we won, or no, we lost.
Right.
Whereas with, Korea and Vietnam and
Iraq,
I
Afghanistan.
guess you could exclude the Gulf War, but all the Iraq and Afghanistan stuff, it's like there was no win or lose. You just went and kind of did your time and came home, knowing that everything that you accomplished in a year was going to go away in 3 months when the other unit took over, and they would basically be starting over from scratch.
Right.
And how that's probably got something to do with the effect of PTSD that people have, is they don't have any closure of this is finally over.
It's so crazy that it is both a psychological situation, and then there's a physical aspect to it as well. There's like, I was listening to a podcast. The guy was saying that you could get PTSD just from being around, not being hit by anything, but being around the explosions, because the concussive force of a shell going off in your vicinity would change the air molecules so drastically and so quickly that your brain wouldn't have time to adjust. Like physically in your skull, it would react to the just the sheer force of the molecules moving around or whatever, and slap it back. And
that's probably what they originally called shell shock.
Yeah. But I don't know if shell shock and PTSD are in the same category, two different beasts, or they overlap, or what.
I think they're basically the same thing. We just didn't have the word PTSD back in the day.
Right. Did you know that retarded used to be a medical word?
I would not be surprised by that.
Yeah.
One other thing I found interesting, I just want to cover it before we moved on. So in our sparked interesting conversation, one thing that came up was like, so World War I and World War II, the biggest sport at the time was baseball.
Yes.
Right. And that's like at the time, that was the biggest thing going on, aside from the news and whether or not it's going to rain for crop reasons or whatever.
Right.
And in baseball, if you're really good at baseball, your stats aren't that impressive. They're like a fraction of a percent. Whereas opposed to now, the biggest sport ever is football. If you're really good at football, then your percentage is, 80% or whatever.
Yeah.
Completed passes or touchdown attempts or this, that, or
You're
the other.
Superstar.
Yeah, I'm someone out there screaming their heads off because I don't know enough about sports, but
Right.
It still proves the point there that, we've moved to a much different society in general.
Yeah.
That the military population is being pulled from. Whereas, when baseball was the biggest thing, if you were a champ, you still struck out 2 out of 3 times.
Yeah, exactly.
As opposed to now, if you're a champ,
you're undefeated, ridiculous Floyd Mayweather status.
Yeah, exactly. So we were curious if, maybe that had an effect on things as well.
Well, coming back and readjusting too has always been, that's kind of what I'm concerned with. Like, I can't really help anybody over there at this point. I'm too old, too fat, too stupid you know, to be a part of a team like that. But like when I see somebody coming back, I'm compelled to be like, hey, you know, would you like a friend? Veterans are the coolest people to hang out with. Period. Like,
Yeah, I think so.
At all the groups,
Kind of biased, but
yeah, but
I mean, if you just want someone that's going to be honest 90% of the time,
yeah, like
and is,
like honest to a fault, like blunt,
yeah,
and profane.
I mean, profane, yes, and
Not
usually
all the time,
usually
actually.
for comedic purposes.
Exactly.
A bit of a dark sense of humor, but not overly.
Yeah.
I mean, you can kind of just joke about whatever you want.
Exactly.
And as long as it's in good fun, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. I've had somebody was telling me like when you're over there they make you sit through this PTSD class. I actually sat through a couple of them when I was in the National Guard, like brief time, and they had that what they call it, death by PowerPoint. It was a big,
it's a resiliency training.
yeah. So this guy was like, yeah, the two main points were when you go home, don't kick your dog and don't beat your wife. That was like the big thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
'Cause if you did either of those things, it would have involved quite a bit of paperwork for
Right.
people above you
Yeah.
who would then go home and beat their wives and dogs
Yeah, so
because of your paperwork.
he was like, he was hanging out with this kid. He was a staff sergeant by the time he had gotten out, and there was some private that was just there, and they were hanging out one day over in Iraq, and he says, Sergeant, I just can't wait to get home. He's like, oh yeah, why's that, Private? He's like, I just can't wait to get home and beat my wife. And it's just like, that shit is terrible. You would never, ever say that in real life.
You're
but,
not supposed to laugh about that like we did, but
no, but like, that's
in the context, it's funny because
Yeah.
it's, you know, joking about what they have to sit through.
yeah.
Even though the terrible fact is the only reason they have to put something out like that is because it was legitimately a problem.
Oh yeah, that's
Actually, I don't know if you want to pull it up and we'll listen to it because this is going to be a long one anyway.
yeah, we can do that.
But
What's the name of
go
it?
into YouTube here for everybody following along at home, and you probably find it under MXB11X or Matt Best or whatever. But just type in the safety brief, and there's these guys called Range 15. There's a movie done. For any of the veterans out there, they know what I'm talking about. This guy Matt Best, he has his own shirts and whiskey and coffee and whatever.
Is this it?
I'm plugging everything too much.
Can you see this at all? I typed MXB11F and safety brief.
X.
MX.
Yeah.
MXB11F.
I forget what it is.
That's what I typed.
Just do Matt Best or Article 15 or something like that. Let me try to find it on my phone real quick.
Let me pause this and we'll figure that out.
We'll get past the technical details.
I'm sorry, everybody. We'll have Bryce on before too long, and I promise you I'm going to have an engineer, and then all this nonsense will go away. All right, pause. And we're recording again. Oh, okay. So I can hit pause and then hit the pause button again, and it'll just like straight up. I don't have to I'm talking to myself. I'm sorry.
No, that's fantastic stuff for all the other budding podcasters out there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so like this program that I'm using is Adobe Audition, and rather than hitting the pause button and then hitting the stop button and then finding where I am with the scrubber, which is this movie party thingy right thing here.
Yeah, you just hit pause and then hit pause again, and you're good to go.
Yeah, it's
so
awesome.
as we were speaking of just a few seconds ago for you guys,
safety brief.
Safety briefs in the military are a huge thing. You know, don't go out and beat your wife or your dog or your neighbor's dog, or if you're gonna bang people, make sure it's your wife, and if you're not married, make sure you use a condom.
Right, don't get a disease.
And there's these fantastic guys over at Article 15 that have made a band called Lincoln Box Seats, and they came up with a song that's called The Safety Brief, and we're about to play that for you. Hopefully they don't care because they're veterans, and I'm a veteran. Maybe that's good enough.
Yeah.
I don't know. They put it on Facebook, so they can't care too much about sharing it out there.
Yeah.
So let's just hit play on that thing, and everyone have a good laugh.
I can tell you not to drink and drive, but I know At least 3 you get no DUI. Do you know how much paperwork that is for me?
I really hate dealing with the MPs.
Whoa, looking at you, Carl, you're a private and you're 31. The betting man would say you're the one. I'm looking at you.
Stupid look on your face like you don't give a fuck.
Just know Monday you'll be pissing in a cup. Safety brake. Safety brake. Safety brake. Safety brake. Snorting coke off of strippers' butt.
Buying dances just to bust a nut.
Dancers will convince you to give them a ring. Trying to get that paycheck on the 1st and 15th.
Depend upon it.
Don't marry the first one you see.
Chances are she's got HIV.
Charlie Sheen has AIDS. Charlie Sheen has AIDS. Charlie
That'd be my
Sheen
favorite part.
has AIDS. Charlie Sheen has AIDS.
Now back to the brief. Back to the brief.
Hey, did you just fall out of formation? No way, this guy just fucking locked his legs. Medic! Get him out!
Combatives, you learn the guillotine. Doesn't mean you fight for the UFC.
There's a reason why we take condoms with us.
None of you need a dependent part of mine.
She's got nice tits, but she might have a dick.
It could be long and strong and tasty.
Are you kidding me? Tasty? God, really? Ugh. Just roll the bridge.
So if you want to stay safe, listen to our safety brief. You can have fun and play if it's below 32 in a game.
Charlie Sheen has AIDS. Charlie Sheen has AIDS. Charlie Sheen has AIDS. He's got AIDS. He's got AIDS.
You simply must watch this.
Thanks for watching the video. If you like the song, it is on iTunes. Also, check out blackriflecoffee.com and Article 15 Clothing. Love you and freedom the fuck on. Woo!
Yep. Okay. I felt bad for playing it all the way through or
Yeah.
whatever, but
I don't even care. That's beautiful. I love that song so much.
yeah.
They're also on Spotify for anyone who hates Apple.
The
They got a couple of songs. They're all hysterical, just like that.
I will certainly link that in the description. But anybody that just wants to skip that, it's MBest11X. This is Michael Best 11 X-ray
Matt Best.
Matt.
That's his name, Matt Best.
Oh, well, that makes better sense. I was going phonetic. I don't know. I'm retarded. Not. What was the thing that was like
The phonetic alphabet.
Combat Jedi? Was that
What?
Do you remember that? There was like, what's your MOS? And like 99 Zulu. And I was like, what's that? It's fucking ninja or some stupid shit.
Oh,
Remember that
yeah,
at all? No. So if you're
I remember
18 and
that.
still think it's funny, I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, we're gonna do the MMA. Go check those dudes out. MBest11X. I don't know why that had to be a big discussion. It's probably Nick's fault.
Because I love that song. That's why it's a big thing. Go check them out.
Oh, you can't do this. Just copy and paste. I hate Google Docs, even though I don't. But
They're pretty awesome.
I was gonna do the news, but I don't think anyone cares. You want to go see what
No,
Alex Jones?
we're gonna skip that news.
Okay, good. Yeah, I don't blame
That's
you.
part of my willful ignorance.
All right, I don't want to make you do your willful ignorance thing, but we'll go right into the Ask Me Everything.
Ask me anything. AMA. Come
AMA.
on.
I almost said MMA because of the UFC.
Because of the
thing.
song. Yeah. It's a good
Olisa
song.
Inwanwu, who is my Facebook friend, asks, how compatible are strong welfare programs with a lax/open border policy? Clearly, he's
You know what? This is a really great question. And I've had a lot of views on it that have varied over the years. But one that I consider most presently, and I've actually taken this from the Mavericks owner, what's his name? I'm drawing a blank now that we're
the guy that got caught.
Javier.
The guy that got caught like saying racist crap to his girlfriend.
What's
No, that
his
was the
name?
Celtics.
No, the Mavericks owner in Dallas, big business guys on Shark Tank. Doesn't matter. Anyway, one great policy that he had mentioned at one point, which actually makes a lot of sense. Basically, if he was in charge of the government, he would get rid of all the social welfare programs and combine it all down into one thing.
Right.
And if you come up and you want welfare, you basically just sign your name and you get X amount of money, and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
No P-test, no verification, no nothing. If you want it, here it is. Come and get it.
Right.
And then that's the end of it. Cut
Mark
everything.
Cuban.
Yeah, Mark Cuban. That's his name.
Yeah.
I don't know why I drew a blank on that.
It's all right.
I actually like learning about him. He's a pretty interesting guy.
I don't pay attention to basketball.
I don't either, but as a businessman,
Yeah.
definitely worth checking out.
I mean, I'm not a rocket scientist, but I like Elon Musk. I don't even know why I said that.
I'm not a rocket surgeon either.
All right.
But that's a joke. People laugh about it. But anyhow, so basically his policy was stop wasting time and effort on it, and just if you want to be that person and you don't want to make yourself better and contribute, here's a couple of schmeckles. Go on about your day and stop asking me about it.
Rick and Morty reference.
Rick and Morty reference for
Schmeckles. Did you ever
the
play that
peeps out there.
video game? It was like Pokemon, but instead
The
of
Pocket Mortys. I love that
game was amazing. It was.
My son's actually quite addicted to that
Is
game.
he? You let him watch that stuff?
Well, I was watching it one day, and he came in and started watching it, and
Kindle.
all he knows is it's a cartoon, and he calls it Daddy's Crazy Show,
Oh, okay.
and he's quite the fan.
I
He
bet.
doesn't really know what's happening, but
No, that's
it's
probably
funny, and he laughs when I laugh, and it's a good time.
Especially when he's drinking daddy juice. And,
He does not drink Daddy juice.
Rick,
Come on,
Rick drinks daddy juice all the time. That's the
Oh,
shit that's hanging off his
I thought
mouth. He's
You're
belching all the
talking
time.
about my son.
Hey,
I was
Morty,
like, good
Morty,
grief.
that's daddy juice doing that to
Yeah,
him.
I was watching some kind of like interview behind the scenes thing with
Justin Roiland and
with the main guy there that does all the voices of friggin' everyone on that show.
right.
And he was saying when he has to do Rick, he drinks a bunch of Diet Coke and light beer,
Yeah.
so that he can burp a lot.
Yeah,
It's time to actually burp. I thought that was hysterical.
That's awesome. It's authentic too.
Yeah. But to answer the question, you know what? If they're gonna come over here and do whatever, let's just stop having 12,000 different programs. Just make it one program. And you know what? You're having some hard times. Sure, we can all help you out a little bit. Hopefully you don't abuse it. Here's your one thing. That's it. No messing around. That's all you're getting. Make it work. And then we move on with our days and stop wasting, 12 different agencies worth of people and resources, and just call it one and done and be over with it, and dedicate all those other people and resources to other things that matter a little bit more.
One of the things that I'm not a huge Gary Johnson fan, but he said on Rogan's podcast was when he was governor of New Mexico, he made it so that in order for you to apply for public welfare, you had to show proof of employment. So even if you were getting paid minimum wage at Jack in the Box or whatever, that still counts. You had to have some kind of a job, and then show that, hey, even with this job, I'm still struggling. That's how you got it. And he said that welfare recipients went down like immediately, and what do you call it?
Recidivist?
No, he said that employment shot through the roof for like a week, and then the Supreme Court of New Mexico was like, nope. Give these fat pieces of crap their money back.
I don't know. That's a tricky slope. I could see kind of both sides of the coin to that, if you will. Like, he was taking a very, hey, work or get nothing kind of viewpoint, which is I'm all for.
Right.
But at the same time, there's a lot of people that have issues, like legitimate issues,
Correct.
where they have problems finding a decent job and this, that, and the other, which there's always going to people that try to abuse any system that there is for anything.
Right. And at the end of the day, I don't
And-
think there's any one silver bullet that solves all the problems either.
That's
There's,
right,
like-
which is exactly why when I heard Mark Cuban's opinion on it, that I thought it was just brilliant.
Yeah.
That, okay, you need some welfare, you get on some down times. Here you go. That's what you're getting. That's the end of the day. Make of it what you will. We're all going to move on to other things.
Yeah.
So if you stay stuck on it, that's on you. And if you want to better yourself from whatever way of your choosing, that's also on you to make yourself better and get off of it.
Problem is if you give them cash, they end up spending it on crack.
That's
or
on them.
Marijuana. Well, that's the other thing is I think drugs should be not only criminalized, but they're decriminalized, but they should be legal. So, I mean, yeah, I guess it wouldn't be that big of a deal.
The older I get, the more libertarian I think that I am.
Yeah.
And it's got some crazy viewpoints, but I think I agree with some of them. Not that I'm all for being able to sell heroin to a 5-year-old, but at the same time, it's
Did
like,
you see that? Did you see that thread?
yeah, I saw that. So,
That was the guy that asked the question.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, this
That's
is the dude.
fantastic.
Yeah.
we fucking tied that right back in.
That's amazing. Oh man, somebody blocked me over that.
That's great.
Yeah.
So, not saying that I'm for 5-year-olds being able to buy heroin, but at the same time, whose responsibility is it? Is it the government's responsibility to raise my children? I don't think so.
No.
I mean, am I a perfect father? Probably not.
No.
I'll probably screw up more things than I get right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I don't need someone else who has never been met or heard of or thought of ever before explaining exactly the way that I should be doing things.
Yeah. Yeah. So the same way as like.
and now am I opposed to like FDA regulations or whatever, where they say don't taint the meats? Sure, I'm all for don't taint the meats. Maybe have someone in charge of making sure that, I'm sure butchers don't exist anymore, but making sure the butcher washes his hands before he cuts the meat.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. That's not too far. Maybe some libertarians are out there screaming their heads off. Like, that's up to you to figure out if you want to buy from a butcher who doesn't wash his hands.
Yeah. But
I guess that's the slippery slope of what is our great democracy, is figuring out where to draw the line in the sand of, let people figure it out,
right.
and what the government's going to be in charge of.
I'm right there with you. I'm probably about 80% on your side. I also think that yeah, who cares what I think? You people know what I think. This is the Outlier podcast with John Hulbert. I babble all the time to you. Let's go on to the next one.
Next question.
This guy, Elisa Inwamu, also asks, why is neutrality so rare for countries? I assume he's talking about like Switzerland's.
Yeah, so I've thought about this before, actually.
Yeah.
I think the biggest reason there's not a lot of neutrality is because
We have a standing military.
Well, aside from that, even if you just look at it as like starting off a purely economic standpoint, no one country can produce exactly every single item that it needs, especially in this modern day.
Right.
And then, so you have to make partnerships with other countries. Like, we're going to make all the corn and you make all the corn baskets, and then we'll swap, and everybody's got corn and a corn basket to put it in.
Woo.
But, to a much more complex extent.
Right. You've got
and then
people
from there,
and
then from there, you're like, oh, hey, this other country over yonder, they're making blue corn, and we don't like that.
yeah.
And for whatever reason, other people are buying up all the blue corn, and we're not making enough money, and we need to go extinguish the blue corn so that we make more money. And then that's how alliances are built. And then you're like, hey, down with the blue corn people.
yeah.
And then all the people who are already your friends are like, all right, well, I don't really care about blue corn, but I want to keep getting corn, period. So I guess we're going to take care of the blue corn people.
I think one of the things that really changed after World War II, like I said earlier, was the standing army. We used to be just a nation of like a militia, and that's what Switzerland has set up. Switzerland had it set up a little bit different than us. We didn't have compulsory military service, and we still don't. But every man was a part of a voluntary militia, and you were basically a bitch if you weren't part of it. It was like, what are you doing not showing up to drill every every month or whatever.
I
Qualifying
think
with a
maybe
rifle.
that had more to do with a different kind of sense of community than we have now.
True. But after World War II, Eisenhower, who was the military general, also president, and was like, no more of that because we barely won against Hitler. And it wasn't because we were better than them. It was like they would show up with a Panzer tank, which was worth like 5 of our tanks, and we would just show up with 6. And that's how we won, basically. But,
I can see that.
yeah.
I don't know what it is about German scientists then and now, but they got something figured out.
Yeah, that's because they're emotionless robots, and all they do is think with their logical thinking parts of their brain.
I guess look at Krieger, and there's your answer.
Yeah, Donnie Price. Hopefully he comments on this. He reminds me of Krieger a lot. You know what I'm saying? The from the Archer,
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
If Donnie Price was really smart, he would definitely be Krieger.
especially with the anime wife and whatnot. Like, I
Yes,
could
yes.
definitely like
No knock on whoever is his current wife.
Well, he's
that
yeah.
he may or may not
When
have.
I've never met her, so like when I think of Donnie, I think high school Donnie. You know?
That's also what I think of, which is,
Classic
for
Donnie.
those people who don't know, Donnie is actually grown man adult Donnie when we were in high school.
Right, yeah. So anyway, they know Donnie. He's been on the AMAs. Like he blows this place up. I love it.
Yes, he does. All right, next question.
Next question. How much do you bench? Like 280 last time I tried. I don't know. Why? How much do you bench? Oh, Lisa.
Do you lift, bro? No, I do not. Well, since I got out of the army,
Can you even
and-
still do a
and
push-up anymore?
You know what? I did a push-up the other day, and it hurt a lot.
Yeah. Oh, fat.
Yep.
Ow, fat.
I'm quite blubberous. And aside from my soft palms that I have these days, if I had to wager, I could put up 245s.
Yeah,
Like 145 on each side. That shouldn't be a problem.
that's 135.
Well, I'm not swinging for the fences here.
Right.
It's been a while since I've been under a bench,
Yeah, me too.
I can still lift heavy things improperly if you want me to do that.
Yeah,
You got something heavy to lift? I'll
Yeah.
help you out.
yeah, exactly. I'll do the same
You put me in the gym, it's comedy hour.
Yeah,
Next question.
Next question. Elisa also asks, "Are you juicing, and why aren't you allowed to be honest about it?"
I'm daddy juicing like a mofo.
Because we had already established that daddy juice means alcohol, and
In case you didn't smell what we were stepping in earlier.
in case you
What?
if you see what I just said.
Yeah. So, if by juicing you're referring to the steroids or the HGH, no, I'm not.
Yo, I
because
listened to
if I
that.
was, I would look much more beautiful than I do.
I listened to that podcast, Tim Ferriss's podcast with Arnold Schwarzenegger, the second one, and they asked him about competitive weightlifting and steroids, and he just straight up gave a runaround answer. Did not answer that question at all. Was like, oh,
Well,
you got
there
the steroids are performance enhancing drugs, and Congress should be on it. Meanwhile,
No, I listened to one with him before. I don't know if maybe it was his book or another Tim Ferriss interview or something.
Yeah.
But there was one that he did where he straight up admitted to
Oh,
using steroids.
he absolutely did steroids. Yeah,
But
that's how
it
you get
was
that
like,
big and angry.
Yeah, but it was like because it was, I guess, so early on, the amount that they did was essentially nothing. Like it had an effect,
Right.
but not like what you think of nowadays when you're, I'm doing steroids and I got man boobs and I'm angry about everything.
Yeah.
It was like, he did a couple steroids and he was slightly more ripped.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how all that works. The potency. I would imagine potency's changed or whatever. Back in the day.
Next
question. Yeah. See, we'll make a podcaster out of you yet, Nick. Julie, I've never said your middle name. La Madeline. That's
Next
probably not
name.
Pike. Julie Pike. That can't be your middle name. That's got to be your maiden name, right? I don't know. I'm an idiot, Julie. I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. But she says, what are your thoughts on another American Revolution, and what do you think it would look like? I think it would look like us going to Mars, establishing a colony there, and then saying, hey, we're no longer part of Earth. We're our own country. Leave us alone. I think that's what's going to happen. Or we're going to have another industrial style revolution, only it won't be industry. It'll be industry, rather. It'll be information. Like I think people will.
We're already in the informational revolution.
Yeah, I think people are gonna like end up buying and selling like codes and then just printing their goods off in their 3D printers, and property will be the new, like you'll have a Walmart right in your back, like right in
Yeah,
your
like
kitchen.
intellectual property kind
Yeah,
of thing.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean we're pretty close to that. What you said about like a colony on Mars just becoming its own thing. That's a very viable point for quote unquote, another American Civil War / revolution kind of thing.
yeah.
But maybe to me, what it sounds like her question's asking is like, if one broke out tomorrow, what would that look like?
Yeah.
I imagine that would be rather heinous, and there would be a lot of people that think they know about war or think that they will be, John Wayne that will be sadly mistaken.
I believe they call that a meat shield.
Yeah. There's if you've read the book World War Z, I would imagine it would not be too dissimilar to that.
Just a bunch of chaos where people.
Yeah, just chaos, and people don't care about money; they just care about bread and water.
Starving to death.
Yeah,
Probably a lot of us would die.
there will be a lot of innocent folk that have nothing to gain but everything to lose from something of that effect. I mean, you just look at the last Civil War that was hundreds of years ago when people were basically self-sufficient, and look how horrible some of those people turned out from it. It's not going to be any better in our current age when we can't even figure out how to get from place A to B without the help of thousands of people in the background that you never even think of.
Exactly. Nobody ever thinks about the truck driver and whatnot. Go on the road and look how rude people are to people that drive trucks.
To
That's
this day, I
something simple.
still don't understand that. Whether you're for truck drivers or against them, or if you want them to all be automated, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If there's something that you have purchased and it wasn't, probably even if it was made by someone in their garage,
Yeah.
all the stuff that was raw materials and or tools to be made in that person's garage all showed up there because of a trucker.
Yeah.
I don't care if it came from China and went on a plane or a boat, but before it got to your neighborhood or wherever you purchased that thing,
Yeah.
it was on a semi-truck.
It was until about 50 years from now, where we just start printing stuff off. I think.
You think that's going to happen?
I think so. Yeah. I think eventually the 3D printer will end up being like a microwave. Everybody will have one, or a TV. Everybody has one. You
Yeah,
know?
I could see that, but I don't know about...
Especially because they can replicate themselves. You can print a 3D printer.
That's pretty intense.
Yeah. So it's.
I didn't
it's-
realize we were to that point.
Yeah. You can print like electronics and whatnot off with them because they can print metal. So you put a
I don't
stick
know,
of
man.
copper in there
I
or
saw
whatever.
a video the other day. A guy tried to print a fan belt for his car,
Yeah.
and it lasted about 30 seconds.
Yeah. Well, they printed a firearm and it lasted like 2 shots and it exploded. But I mean, it's only a matter of time before we figure out how to make harder plastic or whatever. And then it's only a matter of time before we start making it they make concrete out of hemp, man. You can grow that shit out of the
Oh.
ground.
Weird side note, I saw an awesome tent
Tent.
the other day.
Oh, yes, tents. I love tents.
Yeah, and I think it was designed for mostly military application.
Was it like a circle?
No, it was like a
Dome?
like a big, huge tent,
Yeah.
a few hundred square feet, maybe.
Oh,
Not like 900, but,
right.
a couple hundred. And you basically pull it out of this big package, kind of like a life raft,
Okay.
and it would pseudo-inflate and be erect.
I know what you're talking about.
And then you hose it down with water real quick,
yeah.
and then it's coated in some kind of special concrete.
Yeah.
And then once the concrete has enough time to harden
It's
completely,
like concrete fabric.
yeah, it makes like a barrier that is essentially bomb-proof. I mean, not
Well,
completely bomb.
you
We'll call
either
it
bury
bomb,
'em
bomb
or-
resistant.
Right. You either bury them
And
or
then-
you
but
cover them
then-
with sandbags.
But then the inside of it is completely sterile.
Yeah. So you can set up
Um,
like a medical facility in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I thought that was freaking awesome.
We got to get one of those. They're printing houses off now with that hempcrete stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's pretty awesome. Sorry, Julie. I hope we did justice to your question, but
Next question.
a lot of people would die. Next question. John Alexander says, how do you think the military complex has shaped our nation? And do you think we would have ever grown to political power without pushing for military strength? Probably not. I think the military-industrial complex that took place after World War II is a huge driving factor into why the United States is the world's only superpower. I think that's a good argument, but
Yeah, but you also tied that with industrial. I think even without the military part of it, the industrial part would have shot us quite far. We may not be the biggest superpower because a lot of that is gained through our military, even just through the sheer fact that we have the capability.
right.
Kind of like, the bigger stick in the fight, just because people see it, they're like, maybe I don't want to go up against that guy. I'm sure that has quite a bit to do with it. But on the other side of the token, just our sheer industrial revolution and the way things have advanced, I think we would be hard pressed to be far from second or third place without the military.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think we should get rid of the central bank. I say this a lot. I think we should get rid of the Fed and regulate money ourselves. I don't know how to do that. But
Or, I don't know, make it actually part of the government and
Yeah.
not its own entity
Yeah.
outside of the government. That does
Exactly.
whatever it wants.
yeah, with no accountability at all whatsoever.
When the president can't tell them what to do, it's kind of like, oh, hey, just raise interest rates for the fun of it. Or, oh, hey, let's not raise interest rates because we'll scare with what'll happen when it does happen like we are right now. It's like, or you could just freaking do it and get it over with instead of living in a bubble for no reason.
Yeah, definitely crazy. I think, yeah. Next question. Jason Law says, URL. Yes. Next question.
What is URL?
I don't know. I think he's looking for the link to this podcast, which I will reply to this post, and will be at the bottom. And I think that's what you're looking for, but I don't exactly know.
Aren't these like posted on the Facebook of things?
Yeah.
Once they're done and
Yeah.
up and alive.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Come on, man. Pay attention to things.
Yes, attention to things. Aaron Bohat, I ruined your name. I'm sorry. You're going to have to send me a pronouncer. But Aaron Bohat says, what do you think the role of America is in the global community, especially in the sense of keeping the peace? Well, I don't agree with the fact that the United States military has become the world's police force, but I've also kind of come to recognize it and to steal an analogy from Thomas Jefferson. It's like holding a wolf by the ears. Because on one hand, you're holding the freaking wolf by the ears, and you can't let go because if you do, it'll turn around and eat you. But you can't hold on to it either because it's a deadgum wolf. I mean, like, we can't give up our military positions and power and whatnot in the world because that'll create power vacuums, and then it'll be a lot of people that hate us because we were the big brother to a lot of places, or seen as the big brother to a lot of places for a long time. So they can't spell good for the United States. But it's like what we said earlier. We're kind of living in a bubble at this point. And if we pop that bubble, I don't want to fall out of it. Maybe we should.
Yeah, I was definitely talking about an economic bubble. But
Right. I'm talking about
that is a good transition, as they say in the biz.
Yeah. Transition. Biz.
Maybe. I don't know. I couldn't say it any better than you have already. That's... I mean, it's gotten to the point where we've done it so long, it's kind of expected. Much like you expect to have cruise control in your car and you expect someone to answer when you dial 911.
Yeah.
Other countries expect us to show up when someone is their bully. We're basically the big kid on the playground. And when our friends get in trouble, we go and beat up the other kid for them.
Yeah. But hopefully we get ourselves in a position where we're more libertarian, or we just conquer the world and make it the United States of Earth and have a world constitution.
It worked for Futurama.
Yeah. I don't know how is that what the backstory is of Futurama? The whole
I don't know,
Earth?
but I mean, you look at the flag, it's the U.S. flag with a globe instead of stars.
Oh.
What else is the backstory?
Yeah, I guess so. Get rid
Go
of
America.
Julie Pike says, can someone go over again how Russia interfered with the election I hear people say that we know that Russia interfered, but I've heard anyone say exactly how and if it was affected. Julie, I don't know. And the last time I heard
let me start with this one, just
Okay.
because we're gonna go back to my willful ignorance here.
Right.
First off, I don't know how Russia interfered with anything. Did they do it? Sure, I don't know.
But
You know what? Russia, China, insert foreign country here, they all do insane amounts of cyber attacks on this country in every way possible. All the time in the background. Nobody ever hears of it because it's just the usual mundane stuff. But, I forgot where I was going. Let's see here.
it's not impossible.
Yeah, it's not impossible. Yeah, that's something they could have done. But am I the one that's like, oh, hey, they did this, or no, they didn't do this? I can't tell you. And we'll let John go with this.
Your dad's calling.
Yeah, I guess give us another pause here.
Okay, hold on a second. We shall pause. Julie?
Next question.
No, back to Julie's question. She said, "Oh, the Russian thing. Did anybody see? I heard. First off, that the CIA paid themselves or had like a section of people to pretend that they were Russians and then hack, so it looked like the Russians hacked, which is, I believe, they call a false flag. And I don't want to go down that freaking can of worms or whatever. But
I don't know. All I'm saying is,
it's how do you even know anymore?
Well, it's not impossible.
And it's not.
Let's start with the
I don't think
question of how would Russia even interfere with our election? Our election is crooked and rigged enough as it is.
Yeah.
Inside the country without anyone else's help.
Yeah, exactly.
Who cares?
And I don't care because it didn't change the way that I vote either way around. Even if Russia did hack the thing, I'm not voting for that demon that was running against this jackass. So I think,
That just goes to prove how much people are done with the Democrats.
Yeah. That man is openly racist and sexist, and he won.
He straight up grabbed a woman by the vagina at some point, and he became president.
Yeah.
What does that say about our general populace?
He's
right
the
now?
only president that's ever been, what do you call it, dive bombed by, or body slammed by Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Hey,
Give
that's
him
an
a stinger.
accomplishment right there.
That is an
Someone
accomplishment.
called Guinness.
Someone called Guinness right now. Yeah. that's
You know,
amazing.
I read some kind of fun fact that I'm going to butcher, but Guinness World Records is the same Guinness that brews the beer. And they came up with the book idea because back in the day, everyone bought a book full of records.
Right.
And they came up with that idea so that people could settle disputes in bars. And they'd be like, oh, the world's tallest man is Joe Kyle McTall man.
Right.
And then someone else would be like, no, it's Mrs. Wonderlust McTall gal. And then they would go and purchase this book and be like, see, I told you it was this person.
I remember listening to this podcast with this feminist lady, and she was like, yeah, so she was like anti-modern feminism, like pro like 1950s era feminism. I don't know how that works, but whatever. She was like, our school systems suck because they're rigged against boys, and the reason that is because boys biologically intake and perceive information differently than girls do. I.e., boys like playing outside. They like playing in the dirt. They like reading books, but they like reading comic books and fact books, like books about nature, Guinness Book of World Records, Ripley, Believe It or Not, whatever, Spider-Man. Girls aren't into those kinds of books. So when you tailor the class to be into the kind of books that girls are into reading, boys are going to be naturally disinterested, and they're going to not want to read it. But when you tailor it the other way around, there's a bunch of interesting fun facts. Well, then you have a high level of involvement with the boys, and yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely heard stuff along that same vein before, and it definitely piques my interest, especially with a young boy and another one on the way of how to go about this beast that is
Child raising.
public school.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my plan is just have money and homeschool them. I don't know.
I don't know. I've considered the option of homeschooling before, and I've had a lengthy conversation with my father about it, and I don't necessarily consider myself, I guess, fully capable of doing it. I'm sure that I could do it,
Right.
but at the same time, I don't want to rob my children of all the social interaction and fun stuff that comes with being in a public school,
Right.
which I suppose they could get at a private school, but that is not the sort of funding I have at this moment.
Right. Exactly. I'm the same way, and it's a balance too, because my thing is I want to have enough money to homeschool them and then send them to, I don't know, bribe the local school district to let him participate in the public school football, so he still gets that. And because
That's where like a lot of like select teams come in, and then
yeah,
from what I understand, there's a lot of homeschooling stuff where you can do like homeschool sports leagues kind of things.
no, really,
But I've just heard too many ridiculous things where essentially homeschooling becomes a breeding ground for pseudo-Christian, essentially cults.
right, and confirmation biases and all sorts of whatnot.
Yeah, and it's like at what point is this kid becoming well-rounded, which is the initial intention of public school being in the system that it is now.
Right, exactly. But Julia, I hope that did your question justice. I appreciate you asking. You got another one here. It says, what is the consequence for neglecting to uphold the law in relation to all these situations in sanctuary cities at the civil servant level? No one gets reprimanded, sarcasm here, and they getting some kind of payment or reward. Dude, I don't know what's going on with the sanctuary city situation. Honestly, I'm not well read enough on it to comment, but
Is this in reference to like sanctuary cities within the country that harbor like illegal criminals, basically?
Basically,
or illegal immigrants who are criminals?
Right. So, a sanctuary city is when the mayor of that particular city says, you can come here and we're not going to deport you. And then the sheriff or whatever says, we're not going to arrest you for being an illegal immigrant or whatever. You stay here long enough to try and become a citizen, was their idea. But it gets abused, and that's where a lot of criminals end up because they know they're not going to get deported, so there's no consequence for them to live like assholes. And that's when you see a lot of gang violence, like in Philadelphia, I think is one of them, or Chicago's a sanctuary city, and it's not a good situation. I don't know how to go about it, but I definitely think that
You want to know the best way to go about it?
Build a wall.
No, forget the wall. Forget government coming and helping you out. Get off your ass, go to the polls, and vote that jerkwad out of office.
Yeah.
Votes got that person in there.
Yeah.
That person decided they wanted to be a sanctuary city because, all the people got them in there, and that's their beliefs. Go back to the polls and say, you suck. You're not doing what we said you should do.
Yeah.
Let's get some other jerkwad in there and try it again.
Yeah.
That's the point of America right there. Get rid of them.
Yeah. Get rid of them. And you don't even have to tar and feather them like you used to. So, our voting system's awesome. It's like,
You know what? Everyone gets all wrapped up in the presidential election. And then at the same time, they're like, oh, my vote doesn't mean that much. You know what? In the presidential election,
probably not.
Maybe it doesn't.
Yeah.
But you know where
Unless
it does
you live
count?
in Ohio or Florida.
You know where it does count? In your local government.
Yeah.
Go down to your city government and sit in on all the boring crap where they talk about where are we going to fix potholes this week, and then go down to your county government and listen to where are we going to build a park next week, and keep control of those mamma jammas that are controlling everything, and that's going to have the biggest impact on your day-to-day life.
I think so. And I think that's the way the government should work. The most powerful government is the one that's right next to you. Because you don't really have any control over Washington because it's a million miles away.
Fact.
Next question. My friend Dusty asks, what time are you recording? I'm still at work. I'm recording right now. I replied, thank you for your question. Then he said, I hate you. So
we've been recording longer than we care to admit, thanks to my constant break times.
It's okay. It's I pumped Nick full of water.
Next question.
Orlando Hill says, when the wall is up, will there be sharpshooters to shoot the ones coming out of the tunnels? Remember the Alamo. I don't know, but I would imagine gasoline would probably be more effective if you're like shooting people coming out of holes. I don't know. My grandfather used to use gasoline to get rid of groundhogs like that. So, I mean, people burn just like groundhogs, right?
I suppose they would, yes.
I feel like
especially covered in cloth.
Terrible thing. It just devolved into
I don't
nothingness.
know. instead of building the wall, you could use that, 12 to 20 trillion dollars or whatever the total is up to now, and just hire more border patrol people.
Ooh.
You could, I think it was on like Adam Ruins Everything, so take that for what it's worth. But
Yeah.
they said something like with the same amount of money, you could quadruple the force of some ungodly number and pay them all for 20 years plus pension.
Well, how long is the wall supposed to last?
That is a very good question, but I know Mexico's not going to pay for it, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I don't know. There's,
I guess maybe you could put like a tariff on all the money that gets like wired transferred back to Mexico and pay for it fairly quickly. But at the same time, maybe we should reevaluate what are we trying to accomplish with the wall, and then get that answer, and then go, well, what's maybe an alternative way to get the same answer, as opposed to, build the Great Wall of America.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if the Great Wall is such a bad thing or a good thing, but it's kind of hard to say one way or the other unless you're looking at stats too. And,
yeah, we don't have the right numbers in front of us. We're just a couple of yahoos talking into a microphone.
Yeah,
but I mean,
I don't know.
The wall's a crazy thing. Like, on one hand, you know what? There's a lot of good things that could come out of building a wall. You could provide a lot of jobs.
Yeah.
For building
And
that wall.
If it lasts as long as the Hoover Dam has made, and I think that's kind of what he's planning on building all across the border, then yeah, it'd probably be a good.
But you know what?
At the same time,
I don't know how many of you out there in listener land have been to a border town or even close to that vicinity of America.
It's all brown.
But it's kind of not awesome.
Yeah.
So think about what's going to happen when you hire a bunch of people to move down there and their piddly little infrastructure with nowhere to live and all those problems that come with that for building a wall for God knows how long.
I don't know, but maybe it'll be good for that town. I don't know. We'll see.
It might be decent for that town.
I think if you take bad and put it into good, then the bad goes into the good. But if you take good and put it into the bad, I wonder if it works. It's like heat.
I smell what you're stepping in there, but we're just delving into things that are just ridiculous.
They all need to be researched.
Honestly, how is I don't even know how the idea came up to build a freaking wall.
Donald Trump and his
obviously,
amazing.
Well, yeah,
everything
the
that comes out.
brainchild that is Donald Trump.
Everything that comes out of that man's mouth is solid freaking gold.
Yeah, if you want to be a stand-up comedian, it sure is, isn't it?
Listen,
but surely there are other things that we could do.
Yeah, like invade Mexico and annex all their states into ours. United States of Earth. Remember?
Yeah, I mean that worked pretty good for NAFTA.
Yeah, worked pretty good for Germany when they tried annexing Poland there. Yeah. Let's not annex Mexico. I'm kidding, of course. I just again, I don't think there's a silver bullet for anything. Onward. Thomas Hilliard asks, does he feel the bombing of the Twin Towers was a political agenda by the Bush administration? Oh, God. To blind the American people into agreeing to the war on terrorism in the Middle East, i.e., an oil war. He directed that specifically at you.
Yeah, he did. Thanks, old Tommy out there who's fixed my truck on a couple occasions.
He has no idea it's you that's in here.
Oh, he doesn't?
I didn't say your name. I just said I'm doing a podcast with an Army veteran.
He knows now. So let's start off with thanks for fixing my truck on a couple occasions. Appreciate it. That same truck is dead now. No fault of yours.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is basically, do I think that the Twin Towers was an inside job?
Basically.
I've considered that opinion before. And then I take a good, long, hard look at our government. And whether or not they would be capable of such a feat.
Do you remember the conversation we had earlier about the VA and the hotline?
And I think it would be quite difficult for them to coordinate such a thing and so many people be out of the loop. And why I say coordinate such a thing is if our government was responsible for it, it would take more than just the guys on the plane that took over and tried to make things happen.
Yeah.
because there would be a lot of logistical stuff involved with that, and you know that those people would either A, not be down for it, or B, will be writing a best-selling book right now.
Right.
Do I know if jet fuel can melt steel beams? I'm not a mathematician. I couldn't do the figures for you and figure it out. But history shows us apparently it can.
Yeah.
All I know is 2 planes crashed and 2 buildings are down.
Yeah. I think, but I don't. I
think the world is flat? No.
I think that.
Do I think we landed on the moon? Yes.
I think that the situation was certainly taken advantage of, but whether or not that situation was created or whether it actually happened and it was just, never let a good crisis go to waste was applied. But like the Patriot Act, the Department of Homeland Security, those things are both born out of this terrorist thing.
And certainly not to shit on Thomas or make him look like a fool or people to think less of his intelligence. He's a smart guy.
Well, yeah.
But
what happens if it turns out that he's right too? I mean, we don't know.
I mean, if he turns out he's right, I mean, we're all eating our hats after that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't put enough faith in our government to be able to pull that off.
Right.
Do I think they're capable of horrible and terrible things? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do I think they could pull off something as grand as that or Sandy Hook? No, I don't think that they could.
Yeah, I don't know. Thomas, my answer is I have no idea. It would not surprise me one way or the other, to be quite honest, because from Nick's standpoint, yeah, the government's incredibly incompetent, but yeah, I don't know, man. Maybe somebody turned a blind eye. If it did happen, that seems like what would go down. Like they turn a blind eye on purpose, and then
if we were responsible for it, the CIA did it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's the only way that I could see that being
because they're
possible
like
for us to pull off.
Shadow government that operates with they're basically the military arm of the bank. They do whatever the hell they want. They openly spy on the Senate Council.
I mean, apparently now it has come to light that they're almost solely responsible for crack cocaine. So I mean, that's quite a feat on its own.
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody did it, it was the CIA.
Yeah.
Other than that,
same thing.
I'm not holding my breath that the government did it.
Yeah. All righty. Thomas also asked, what is his thoughts on Trump cutting funding to NATO, seeing how all the countries involved are supposed to pay at least 2% yearly income, and America is picking up the slack others could not. Some countries pay nothing, and when faced with trouble, are the first to holler for help, but have paid nothing.
Well, that's an interesting topic that I have not heard before, but I certainly have an opinion, which is why you're here to listen. I mean, if you boil it down to its absolute barest form, the UN is a club not too dissimilar from many other clubs. And many clubs have dues. If you don't pay your dues, you shouldn't be in the club. So that was disgusting. For everyone who doesn't know, that was John's neck popping amongst his fat rolls. But I digress.
Oh, damn it. We were supposed to record this.
Right there with you that especially if the people not paying their dues are the very same people who are asking for the most help. Yeah, let's get rid of them. Let's kick them out of the UN for a couple of months and see how they like that when their bully neighbors who they haven't been kind to come knocking because they know there's no help.
Yeah.
If the rule is 2% of your country's income has to be paid if you want to be part of the club, I don't care if your country made $5 American for the entire year. Guess what? You got to pay 2% of that $5 American.
Good.
And if you paid your 2%, all right, buddy, we'll come help you beat up your bully neighbor next door that you haven't been kind to.
Yeah.
But if you're not footing in your fair shake, don't expect us to give you a fair shake back.
Yeah,
Oh boy, I think we're on Facebook Live now. Everybody tune in, even though you're not listening to this live.
We're not. I am trying to situate this situation. How about there we go, like that. And go away, Delaney.
Next question.
Next question. Okay, hold on. Pause button. I'm sorry, everyone. Okay, so for the rest of this, because I completely forgot, we're gonna go like live on Facebook and actually do this podcast live. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. Facebook Live, doing the last 15 minutes of the podcast because I completely forgot to set up this thing. Woo! All right, what were we doing? Podcast?
AMA.
AMA. Ah, yes. So there's only like 4 questions left.
Oh boy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when we scroll down to that one, it's going to be awesome. Julie, she's watching. We've already answered your question, but you're going to love this podcast.
I hope you enjoyed the answer, as fruitful as it was.
Somebody liked my video already. Woo! Go away. All right. Not y'all, but the Facebook thing. Mike Thomas Hilliard asks, do you think Michael Flynn's immunity request for the information regarding Trump and Russian ties to win the election are justified, or do you think he should be in jail sitting right now as a criminal for colluding with him? Also, what other things do you think he knows, and how deep do you think the rabbit hole is? I don't know who Michael Flynn is right off the top of my head. I know the name, immunity request.
I've never heard of him.
Well, again, we're talking about the Russian thing.
I guess it just comes down to how he got his information. I mean,
Jason Law
maybe
wants
if
me
it
to
was-
go
apparently, I guess if it's a part of his normal daily scope of his job/business, if he came across some stuff like that,
Michael Flynn.
and then he decided to put it out there in the world, you know what? Good on him. Yeah. Let's try to at least keep pretending that we have a functioning normal government as it should be, as opposed to what it is most likely corrupted into.
Yeah.
But, you know, if he's going out there and bribing Donald Trump's hookers or whoever to get the information, maybe that's not the best way of going about it.
Thomas, I think for sure that's a question that's going to be asked well after this issue, or a question that's going to be answered well after this issue's blown over, whether or not his request was justified. And whether or not he's done something wrong. I mean, the only reason why you're going to ask for immunity is you've done something wrong, right? That would be my guess.
Yeah, that's a good point right there.
Yeah, but I don't know. Man. The rabbit hole is as deep as it can go. But thank you. Next question. Dusty asks, why is your production company called Productive Productions, but your podcast is called Outlier? Okay, so the way
Because Productive Productions is clever, and that's the name of the business.
yeah.
And the podcast has a separate name so that you can enjoy both.
Yes. So essentially, Productive Productions is that was my company. I created that when I was like, I don't know, 18, and it's a stupid name. I hate it. I should have changed it back.
Have you established an LLC?
No, I haven't done anything. I've just worked.
You haven't done anything for profit yet?
I have, but I haven't made enough to report to the IRS. Like they only less than $600 a year or something like that is.
Fair enough.
They don't care. But I have done pro bono work. I do a lot of pro bono stuff because I'm a startup and I'm
Well, here's a fun fact for you.
15 hours a semester.
If you make an
working
LLC,
full-time.
even if you don't sell a single thing, you don't make one dime, but you own an LLC, report your taxes. They get angry when you don't.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
No, Productive Productions was, when I started this podcast, originally it was supposed to be a pitch to the radio station, and that got squashed like unmercifully so. So, yeah, hey, PJ. So yeah, like I say, I pitched it and they said you got to have a name and for your podcast, and I was like, what about the John Hulbert podcast? Blah blah blah, and they were like, no, and I was like, what about Productive Productions? And they were like, is that your company? I was like, yeah. They were like, no. So I was like, screw it. What about the Outlier? That sounds awesome because it's like outlaw, but I'm not cool enough to be like outlaw country or whatever. And I was like, Outlier. Yeah. But so I picked that, and then they were like, cool, and I just ran with it. So like Productive Productions is the umbrella, and I do the Outlier podcast. I do the Productive Productions YouTube channel, the Facebook Live thing. This is brand new. I'm just doing this, and then like a bunch of other stuff. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, bud. But basically, I'm an idiot. And my friend Dan Stinnett commented. He said, because he is an outright liar about being productive at production. That is not untrue, Dan, but I'm just going to go ahead and send you a shut up anyway. So thank you for
Next
your
question.
patronage. Mo Lawrence, he says, link, question mark. I will send you a link when I'm done. It says, what are your views and opinions on, oh no, the gay midget clown porn? I wish I didn't read that out loud. It makes me feel bad. I don't
Well-
care, and I don't view it.
Something that's usually in reference to cars. There's an ass for every seat. So you know what? If it's not your cup of tea, don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's my opinion. What is yours? Why would you even bring such a thing up? Do you have an affinity for it, sir? Is that why? He also asked, have you ever skinned a cat with a dip in? Well, okay, it just trails off and gets worse and worse. Have you ever done such a
Next
thing?
question.
Michael Kidd, why won't people just shut up about racism? Well, probably because it's a really big issue and it affects a lot of people. Like, I feel like
You know what? Not to discredit the issue that is racism, but honestly, I think there's less people who are as racist as everyone thinks.
yeah,
Maybe I'm gonna insult some people here or some such because this is a touchy topic, but most people out there don't really care what the other guy's doing, and the people that do care don't have enough stuff going on in their life.
I don't know.
Racism was a real problem for much longer than our country cares to admit. But I feel like in this day and age, it shouldn't be that big a deal. Part of it is a lot of racist things are built upon stereotypes, and stereotypes are things that are based upon truth. Now, is every stereotype or every racism thing true? No, of course it's not. But a lot of it has to do with the way the people were raised. And you can't, hashtag break the cycle until people actually start taking a good hard look about the way they were raised themselves, consider the things that they like and don't like, try to make themselves better, and then pass these better things on to their children so that their children can, keep everything going and grow up and become adults and have their own children and interact with society and be like, you know what? I honestly don't care if you are black or green or purple or Asian or whatever the things are that people are angry about these days because it's cool. Because it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it shouldn't matter. And my silver bullet answer, and I know like you're not supposed to have those because there's not really a silver bullet, but I think the drug war needs to go away because it seems to me like having a militarized police force that's its goal is to assume that somebody's guilty before they're innocent and just say, hey, this guy has drugs, I need to go, invade his life and say, search for other stuff among that. I feel like if you take the drug war away, then police have less of a reason to bug people, and then what inevitably ends up happening, and it seems like one of a lot of like African American communities or whatever, is they get hassled by cops, and then it's the mechanism that they're using to hassle these people is mostly, I'd say 80% drug war related. So I'd say get rid of the freaking drug war, let people act like adults, let the dumb ones die off by their own decisions, and let's move forward. This should be a libertarian society, and if something is affecting, that's a good thing about a republic is if something is affecting a minority group negatively, then there's a good chance that if that ever catches on and goes viral, just like in marketing, it will have a bad effect for everyone as a whole. So I say get rid of the drug war because the drug war is racist. Hashtag let me smoke my meth and heroin. I don't know. I'm going to stop. Shut up.
I mean, that's a good, I guess, kind of to branch off of your topic of viral marketing or whatever. I think that has a huge part to do with what our racism is nowadays.
Yeah.
Like people that are, we'll call, I guess, for lack of a better term, maybe borderline racist because they never interacted with a whole lot of black people. All they know is what they see in the mass media.
I think
So,
essentially,
you know, a big part of that is what the news is saying. Oh, generic height, generic weight, black male has done this again.
Right.
And obviously we don't need more of that.
I think this situation is so complex. The best way to handle it, the best, I don't know, thought that I can come up with is it needs to be looked at with a calm and rational mindset, and each situation needs to be handled as an individual situation, because you can't just generalize and say all cops are bad. You can't generalize and say all black people are bad. You can't just, it's not, you have to look at the situation case by case, and we have to proceed as mature adults. It's such a hot topic from anywhere that you look at it. Like, we just got somebody that said, yeah, Mo Lawrence is saying "bah." I don't know what that means, but see, I have poor organization with this here.
Is that like bah humbug or something?
No, I said something about goats earlier. I don't. Or what? How do you feel about Navy doing goat stuff?
Well, you know, funny story. I've never seen any Navy people do goat stuff, but I have seen an Afghani do donkey stuff.
No. Okay, tell me. No, but yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much the whole story, with the exception of. So we were watching our things, and then we came across an Afghani dude and a donkey, and we're like, "Oh, hey, is this guy up to something crazy?" Because it was the middle of the night.
Yeah.
When, you know, there's not a whole lot of people moving around in the middle of the night, so we're like, "All right, we'll check this dude out, see what he's up to." You know, 9 times out of 10, it's, you know, nothing crazy. It's just some guy moving a donkey in the middle of the night. Whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So a lot of people over there are hardworking dudes.
Just your routine
Sun
donkey
up,
check.
sun up to sun down, they're taking care of business.
Yeah.
But this time, it wasn't anything nefarious per se. But he took this donkey over behind a mud wall and proceeded to tie it up and go to town. And that's not the worst part.
No.
Believe it or not. The worst part is he's going to town on it and like licks his hand for extra you know what's.
No.
And rubs himself and goes back at it.
No.
After he's already gone after it some.
No.
So he's got, you know, donkey knows what on himself, puts it in his mouth, puts it back on himself,
All right, enough.
and returns to business.
All right, we're done. We're done with
Question answered. Stop asking crazy
this.
things.
Next question.
Next question.
Yeah, no, it doesn't work when he, Jesus. Oh,
Is that the
no.
last one, the midget thing?
No, that isn't. He's the one that's been asking the goat stuff.
Scroll down.
Yeah, we're going down. He says, would you do this? Would you observe this in the desert? Shall I say? I'm going to censor you, Mo. I hate you so much. Most donkey stuff. Yeah. Yeah. So there's I believe they call this a little person.
Oh, why would you click on it?
And she's
Turn that off. Turn that off.
she's dancing.
My lordy.
We're done with that. Up and yeah.
Dropping the things and the stuff and the things.
Woo! Let's go through these comments real quick that they put on this. Oh man, there's like 100 comments. Keep going. We'll tell you when your friends are going. Chris Watkins is watching something.
Somebody post a question on the live thing real quick. Hurry, go now.
First question gets answered on the live thing. First one, and not Mo Lawrence. You've had enough.
You've had enough, sir.
You're banned.
You've been cut off. It's the last call for you.
Yes. I'm just kidding. Anyone?
Someone post a question immediately.
Question.
Immediately.
I don't know how this works and why the questions aren't flowing. Yeah.
Who said
him.
something?
It's Mo Lawrence again.
What'd he say?
Told you to shut your damn mouth, sir, and you opened it.
What'd he say?
He said-
Everyone wants to know.
He said, "Oh."
Oh.
Julie said racism is a lazy excuse, which is true. A lot of people use. That's what Nick was kind of pointing to earlier. I think was sometimes it's, people cry wolf over that when really you're just an asshole.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
like-
every coin has two sides. A lot of people like to pull the racism card.
Anyone want to ask a question to this guy?
How many people are on this live thing?
I don't know, six people.
6 people?
Woo!
I am more interesting than 6 people. Tell your friends, people, before we shut it down.
We're shutting it down. Shut it down. Woo! Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna shut it down. But that was an Outlier podcast with Nick Williams. Hopefully we'll have him on the podcast again. He says, nice beards. Julie says, nice beards. Fellas, do you use special products? Nick does. He uses a donkey product. I don't know.
Yeah, good try. Go ahead and stab yourself in your sleep.
Okay.
No, mostly I prefer the au natural, but on occasion it gets a little bit dry, and I'll put a little bit of sandalwood flavored beard oil in it. It's not a daily routine. It's every now and again to give it a little boost. But other than that, just wash it and clean it and brush it and stroke it and make it beautiful.
Yes, stroke it. Beautiful. But yeah, all that being said, I think we're going to shut this down. I don't know what I did with my closing music, but I do have this safety brief video.
Play it again.
Up still, so we're going to play it again, and we're going to kill it on that. Thank you, Julie and Mo, everybody that participated. Y'all are awesome. Hit play now.
I can tell you not to drink and drive,
But I know at least 3 you get no DUI. Do you know how much paperwork that is for me?
I really hate dealing with the MPs.
Oh, looking at your car, oh, you're a private and you're 31. The betting man would say you're the one.
I'm looking at you. Stupid look on your face like you don't give a fuck.
Just know Monday you'll be pissing in a cup. Safety breathe. Safety breathe. Safety breathe. Safety.
The Texas Lottery. Try your luck before
Source, no, she's a friend. What is
Brief.
he doing here?
Back to the brief, book a brief, book a back a
Macy's
book,
gonna come
brief,
and
pick a
do something.
book.
Stop it, shoot. Stop
Hey,
this word.
did you just...
Look at me. I have never betrayed you, ever. We're real.
Fall out of formation? No way this guy just fucking locked his legs.
Word, I have
Medic!
nothing to do with the
Get him
result.
out!
Combatives, you learn the guillotine. Doesn't mean you fight for the UFC. There's a
We gotta move.
with us. None of you need a dependent part of us.
She's got nice tits, but she might have a dick.
It could be long and strong and tasty.
Are you kidding me? Tasty? God, really? Ugh. Just roll with the bridge.
So if you want to stay safe, listen to our safety brief. You can have fun and play if it's below 32 in a game.
Charlie Sheen has a